Let's get sweaty.
Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Shenmue Dojo show. I'm James Brown, and as always, I'm joined by Mr. Matthew, soon to smell of tobacco and gold, Oliver. How's things, man?
Yeah, good, man. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. I think that's probably 8 episodes where neither of us have never not been good.
Yeah,
So I suppose that's a positive considering last year or so.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think next year should be a cracker of a year as well, what with the anime destined to release, and who knows what else we might come across next year.
Yeah, I mean, the anime, obviously, we don't know when it's coming out, but I mean, the trailer speaks for itself. I just want more. Give us some more hints now, and hopefully, it lives up to the emphatic sort of introduction it had with the trailer. If it does, I think we're in a really, really good place next year.
Can you see it showing up again prior to it being released, like at another show or something?
Possibly the Game Awards. I mean, there have been animes pop up there in the past. I mean, but I think that would be it this year. I'd anticipate.
And when are the Game Awards?
December the 9th, I think, but I'd have to Google it and check.
Okay. So I think every conference or whatever we're probably going to be watching eagle-eyed anyway, just on the off chance. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll just see how we go.
So on today's show, we're going to be picking up from where we left off at the end of episode 3 of the Shenmue Dojo show, all the way back in March, when we covered and discussed the first half of Shenmue 3's story beats in Bailu Village. We'll be going over everything that happens in the Niaowu half up until the end of the game, so it should come as no surprise that there are going to be some massive spoilers in this episode. So if for some reason you're still yet to play through Shenmue 3, I'm looking at you, Flagship. You may want to stop this podcast now, and I still can't believe that Shenmue dies, mate. Shocking, isn't it?
Oh, man. Yeah, you didn't see that one coming, did you?
I also want to preface that whilst we're not actually going anywhere, but this particular episode is going to wrap up season 1 of the show. So the past 8 episodes, as well as all of the interviews, that's a nice round show run of 26 episodes for the season, which is pretty crazy.
Christ.
I think that, yeah, between everything we've been doing, we managed to crank out all of that content over the past year. I just think it's nuts.
That's mental. It's a show every 2 weeks, basically.
It is like a proper season's worth, like an actual show run, really, 26 episodes. And also in the coming weeks, we'll be doing a Christmas special show that I'm really looking forward to, which will be full of fun, music, games, and more. Hopefully. I've got a few Shenmue-themed jokes that I've thought up as well that I'm excited to share too, so look out for that soon. But before we get into the meat and potatoes of the show today, we're going to catch up on all of the latest Shenmue news and happenings since the last episode. So, first up, Shenmue Clone Map. Where on earth did this come from, and what is it all about?
I tell you what, if you want to bring something out of the left field, I think this is probably as left field as it comes. I mean, how do you even go? I don't know where they got this idea from. I think it's great, and from what Sega Shop have said to me, they're selling really, really well, which is impressive. I've got one on the way. I'll unbox it, of course, but I mean, I don't know how you felt about it. I mean, it's tobacco and gold is the smell, which I don't quite get how that fits in terms of Shenmue, but I mean, I'll go through it. I mean, the description on the website goes like this: rebellious and addictive, this exhilarating Shenmue tobacco and gold unisex cologne hits all the right smells to get the likes of Ria Hazuki nodding in appreciation. Enjoy this fresh fragrance with top notes of clashing cardamom, bergamot, smouldering golden tobacco, deep orris, and strong patchouli base. This scent is ideal for presenting as a gift to a loved one or for yourself. So it's official Sega product. It's officially licensed. It's designed and engineered by Numskull Designs, who they do a lot of Sega Shop stuff actually. I think 95% of the stuff they do there is by Numskull actually. Fragrance notes, I mean, it's all the stuff in it. It's a cardamom, bergamot, golden tobacco, orris, sage, and patchouli. It's a unisex fragrance, and it's a 100ml bottle. So you get a reasonable amount. It's a pre-order item at the moment, and I am told it's due to ship before Christmas.
Great stuff. I mean, I think it probably is because of Christmas that this idea is originated from. A lot of people buy cologne and perfume and that sort of stuff for people for Christmas. I don't necessarily think it's because of Shenmue that they thought of this perfume, because obviously you've got the Sonic one and the Yakuza fragrances as well. So I'm not sure where, like you say, the idea actually originated from. And I agree with you. I don't think the actual fragrance screams Shenmue at me. But I mean, I'm waiting to see what it smells like, or waiting to smell what it smells like. It's going to be an interesting fragrance. The only thing I can think of why they've gone for like tobacco and gold is if they're just thinking of like, I don't know, like Tokyo or Dobuita, that sort of like, I don't know, industrial sort of 80s where smoking was allowed in any venue and any place. And I can imagine the only place I can think of is the Mahjong parlor where you walk in
Yeah, good
Shenmue
point.
1 and it's smoky. That's probably the only tobacco-esque sort of theme in Shenmue 1 that I'm aware of, though, apart from there's that dude squatting as well with the cigarette.
Oh
But
yeah,
other than that, it's not really like say a fragrance you'd associate with Shenmue. I'd have rather probably maybe like a Guilin scent from Shenmue 2, like I suppose that would be a bit more feminine, maybe like floral,
possibly.
but I could imagine like a good rustic wooden tree sort of smell, like a proper man smell, like, I don't know, oak or something. Or cherry blossoms. That's probably more.
Cherry blossoms would work. That'd
Mm,
work. It's funny, isn't it? I mean, I don't know who thinks this stuff up, but why the hell not miss more Shenmue merch at the end of the day? And while it is a bit of a left field one, if it sells well, they probably will do more. So I mean, if you like the idea, and it is a good Christmas present. I mean, if you're struggling to buy for someone at Christmas, and they know you're a Shenmue fan or whatever, or a Shenmue fan, and you're struggling to buy for them, well, it's not a bad gift, really, is it?
no, I don't think so. I think perfect Christmas present you'd want under your Christmas tree or from a loved one, I suppose. I don't know.
As I say, it's very left field, and it seems to be selling quite well from what I've been told through Sega Shop, which is awesome actually to see that it's selling well, because
Yeah.
that just means they hopefully will put out more Shenmue merch, and I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that they do.
Yeah, that is good to see. And obviously, the Yakuza scent has actually sold out from what we've seen. So hopefully, the Shenmue one's not too far behind that. Obviously, there's probably a lot more Yakuza fans.
And also, it's just Judgment's just had a big release as well, hasn't it? So I think it's quite fresh in the memory. So that might be why. And Yakuza it's probably their biggest active franchise, barring Sonic, I would argue.
Yeah, and they probably for the Sonic one allocated maybe even more for the
Possibly, yeah.
stock. Yeah, maybe they were testing the waters with the Yakuza and Shenmue ones with a bit a lower stock. So hopefully we'll see if you are eyeing that up, you might want to hop on that quick, because like I say, the Yakuza one sold out, and between me and Matt, we've got like 8 or 10 on order from different people around the world. So yeah, I can't imagine them having too many remaining, to be honest. But who knows? I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. We've had some more recent news regarding the Shenmue 3 soundtrack. I've got hitting us yesterday at the time of recording. Customers of the Shenmue 3 soundtracks from Big Wax received an email regarding the delay in production and the upcoming date of shipping. So, what products does this include, and what are the details of this, Matt?
So we got this update a couple of days ago. Actually, a forum user, Dadage, I think, popped up on the forums to say that they'd been speaking to the community manager there, and they confirmed that emails were going out around the Big Wax stuff. So the items included in this update, you get the 6 CD set, the 5 LP and the 6 LP box sets, which are being shipped now. I think, actual fact, looking on Twitter today, a CD set has actually popped up in someone's hands already, and it looks really, really good. I'm really impressed by it. And the 11 LP box set is going to be shipped from December the 9th, and you'll get emails to notify when the package is on its way.
Did something just fall over in your place, or was it me?
No, I don't think so.
That's weird. Okay. So because Big Wax is a French company, I believe, obviously people that live close to France are going to be getting them soon.
Yeah.
And we've kind of under the situation of we ordered, I think we ordered the big box set from Big Wax, so we will get that shipped on December the 9th, like you just said. But everything else I certainly at least have ordered from Limited Run Games, which we haven't really had an update from them regarding these. But I'm pretty sure the fact that a company like Big Wax is shipping these and they are a Limited Run Games product at the end of the day,
Yeah.
they can't be too far behind. So just keep an eye out on your emails and all sorts of whatever to be updated on that. And obviously Shenmue Dojo, of course.
Yep, and there's a caveat to that is obviously the limited run game stuff. If you've ordered a bulk of stuff, so you've ordered, say, the 11 LP set and the collector's edition, the 11 LP set won't ship separately. It'll all ship together. So that's
Right.
just worth bearing in mind with your orders that they tend to put them together. I think it's to save on shipping, quite frankly. So
Did they do the collector's edition at the same time?
they did. I think it was live at the same time.
Right. I'll have to check my order on that then. So it could be a little bit of a while then, still to go with the limited run game stuff then.
Quite possibly. It's, like I said, it's just worth keeping an eye on your emails and seeing what happens. But if you've got anything singularly from limited run games, I'd imagine it'd be shipping fairly soon.
Yeah, spot on. And other news-wise regarding like updates to projects and whatnot, we've had an update from Adam Scipione from the Shenmue documentary team. He pushed out an update a couple of weeks ago on Kickstarter regarding the status of the film and obviously the physical items that they had planned on Kickstarter. It's been a long time coming, but where are we now in terms of when we can finally expect to get this documentary in our hands, man?
Wow, it's an exciting update. Quite honestly, the post-production process is nearly finished. This is coming from the Kickstarter update. They've had all the Japanese to English subs review for accuracy, and happy to report that the tweets have been made and looking good. The bonus content is completed. The end credits being prepped and being quadruple checked before to ensure that nothing's missing. So it sounds like that they're almost ready to go into production. He did also say in this update that he would like everybody to check their Kickstarter backer name is set to the what you ever want to be credited as. So if you want your legal name in there, you need to change your Kickstarter alias to that. Otherwise, you're going to have some stupid screen name in there rather than your name. But that's completely up to you. They're still fine tuning the edit, and they need to finish up the artwork for the box. So there's all sort of time to get everything updated. And when it's all done and time to manufacture and ship the discs from a logistical standpoint, they'll let us know. And it's going to be sort of the end of a very long process. And in speaking to Adam privately about it as well, they aren't that far off shipping. I do think it will be early next year. But I must say, I'm excited to get it in my hands after the Kickstarter backers got the privilege to sort of see an unedited, uncut version, and that was really good. I'm looking forward to what the final product's going to have and how far in it goes. I mean, it's also got documentary of Shenmue itself, and there's like a side documentary in it about the making of Shenmue 3. So there could well be some really interesting stuff in there about Shenmue 3 that perhaps hasn't come out to the public yet, which would be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see it as well. I was going to mention that actually. I think because we backed it, I don't know if it was because of a certainty, but we did manage to watch, what was it, like an early unedited,
Yeah,
or it was like an early edited version of the documentary.
It was very rough, wasn't it? But it was, I think it was about an hour and a half's worth, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was fantastic, to be honest. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they've changed, what they've updated, the actual final edit, and I think fans are going to really enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm still kind of hoping that there's going to be like a streaming service sort of involvement like Netflix or something to get it out there into the world, so more than just the Shenmue fans will be able to actually see this and realise why we're so devoted to the series.
Yeah, I know they were still talking about it, and actually for people who didn't back the Kickstarter, it'd be a way for them to be able to watch it as well, because I've seen on the various sort of social media pages that there's been people going, "Oh, I missed this. How did I miss it? Can I get copies, etc." Now, and it's hopefully they can access it. Either they can produce some extras that they can sell, or they can get it on a streaming service. But I imagine there's a lot of legalities behind that going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. So, but I'd be really looking forward to getting this in my hands and reserving a good few hours to watch it in very much great detail.
For sure, man. I mean, they shouldn't be excluded anyway if they didn't back it, because we backed it because we wanted to see it become a reality. We paid for all his travel expenses, equipment, and time and editing all the past few years, and everything. That is what the funding went towards, getting this as an actual product. And obviously, we wanted the physical items and stuff like that. So if they could get it on a streaming thing like Netflix, I think that would be amazing. so that people can see what all the Shenmue malarkey is about, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so moving on, just a quick mention of a latest blog post we've had from PhantomRiverZone.com, of course. Kind of going off the tail end of what we were talking about in episode 7, when we were discussing the anime, we went through the different prophecies from each of the games, and Switch has actually done an actual prophecy comparison between all of them, with the Japanese translations and everything there. So if you want like the definitive prophecy comparison, head on over to phantomriverstone.com right now. And of course, I'll chuck the link in the description if you're listening in the future and, he's done a million blog posts since
Yeah.
that. And we've also got some housekeeping ourselves from the actual Shenmue Dojo website. We've got an update to the media section. So Peter Campbell's been hard at work organising the huge archive of media content, images and galleries, etc. on the main site, ranging from early pre-Shenmue all the way to current day Shenmue Cologne. And you can delve back into the archives and view images and photos from all the Shenmue's history, which I think's quite a massive undertaking
Yeah.
to make all of the galleries that much more user friendly. These millions and millions of images from years and years of events and whatnot.
20 years worth of images, and man, it's taken him what, 6 months? Do you reckon? It's being a big piece of work.
Yeah, possibly. I know he's had things happen in his life in and out and that sort of stuff, so he hasn't completely devoted 6 months of
No.
his life to it, of course. But I think what he has done there is just made it a lot more user friendly.
Definitely.
If you want to find a specific image from a specific era, hop on in, and it's pretty straightforward now. And last couple of little bits of news, mate. Last 2 episodes of the show have been devoted to interviews from yourself. Obviously, you did an interview with Josh Fairhurst and John Linneman. If you want to tell us a little bit about that, if people may have missed those episodes.
Yeah, I try not to spoil them too much. I mean, Josh Fairhurst is one of the co-owners at Limited Run Games. He's absolute sound bloke, actually. We talk a little bit about him finding Shenmue. We talk about the 2019 Shenmue Collector's Edition and how that actually came to happen in America. And it was very interesting in how that actually happened, because there were no plans at all for it to go stateside until Limited Run Games got involved, which I thought was a little bit sad. Almost neglectful in some respects, but I'm glad that Limited Run Games picked that up and drove that forward, and it all sold out and was all good in the end. And the other thing we sort of touch on, and so we all sort of touched in the news section already, is there was a shipping update around the collector's edition, Shenmue 3 collector's edition rather, and also the LP sets which are on the way now. Now, John Linneman was a completely different sort of take on the interview. John Linneman, who, for those who don't know him, is of Digital Foundry fame, and took time out of his day to talk to me about Shenmue, and also the canned Shenmue remaster that was leaked around October 2018, which he leaked on the Digital Foundry website. It's a good hour's conversation about Shenmue, the leaked remaster, D3T's version, and actually how Digital Foundry pump out the amount of stuff that they do. I mean, God forbid how they do it. I mean, fair play to them. And John is a really nice bloke. I've got a lot of time for him, and I love his work anyway. So I was probably like fanboying out a little bit when I was interviewing him.
Sorry, man. I was just checking the weather because that noise I was on about, which sort of like, it felt like it rattled past my chair.
Yeah.
But there's something going on with the weather outside. I've just checked because someone mentioned earlier that there's a red warning or something.
There's a storm coming, like a big
so I
ass storm.
think it may have hit where I am, and I think maybe my office just shook a little bit, which is why it felt like it kind of came past me.
Okay.
And I've just checked my phone, and apparently there's like sleet or something happening right now. So I may end this podcast and walk outside and just find like snow everywhere, which will be interesting. But yeah, guys, if you haven't listened to those 2 interviews that Matt's on about there, just really good, probably 2 of your best. And I say that every time, which just speaks volumes, I think, for how great of a job you do on the interview series. And you've got more planned in the future. You've already ended up a couple of pretty savvy, that's the word I was going to say. Some pretty savvy guests that are due to occur when season 2 kicks off next year.
Yeah, my first one is booked to record on January the 4th, actually. That's all booked, confirmed. So you'll see a new interview sort of early on in the new year, which is great. I'm taking a little break because I've been pumping these out, I think, literally since October last year with Brian Payton's first one. And I think I've been pumping them out at least consistently one a month. So I
Yeah.
need a rest.
Yeah, definitely, man. And it gives chance to refresh a bit, get a few new faces. Maybe you can, as things change, with the anime and stuff, maybe you can get some old guests back on to chat about them as well, which would
Yeah,
be cool. So, last little bit of news, just an update for Shenmue World issue 2, if anyone's waiting for it. I've been working away on it, chipping away through 164 brand new pages. Just received my last two big articles back from a few people involved in the issue that just need to edit, which leaves me just with a few small bits and bobs to work on until we have an actual finished magazine again. So I would say, as of today, whenever you're listening to this, that issue 2 is on track, scheduled to be coming early next year. I'd probably say first quarter for now. The original plan was around February, but I'm struggling to find free time as it is. So I know, like around Christmas, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But I will promise you guys that it's already starting to come together. I'm slowly reaching the goalpost. So look out for that in the near future.
beautiful.
So with that being said, let's crack on with the show. We've both picked out a few pieces of music from Niaowu, which obviously is the topic of discussion today. We're going to play one of my picks first. So this is probably the most recognisable music for Niaowu, and hopefully it will take you right there in your head as we set up for a great show today. And this is a song called People Coming and Going. Welcome back. That was People Coming and Going from Shenmue 3's Niaowu, and we've got more music to come throughout the show. So like we did in our Balu Village episode, we've got two guides that we're going to follow throughout the story side of things in Niaowu all the way to the end of the game. So the two guides we've used before, we're going to be using them again today. I'll link them in the show notes or description on YouTube, but we'll give the guides a quick shout out too, as they're both fantastic. The first one we'll be using the text from is from a user called Rayla on Game FAQs. So if anyone's played Nights into Dreams, you'll probably be familiar with the name Rayla as the main villain of that series. This user even uses an icon of that character, so it's definitely a Nights fan. And this is an amazing guide. It's super detailed. It goes into everything pretty much. It's not just a walkthrough. There's a pawn shop guide, gambling, herbs, etc. And they've even made an interactive set of maps for each area, which shows all the spawn points for herbs, where side quests start, etc. And you can actually check things off as you complete them, which is super handy. And the other guide we'll be using is mainly just for image reference if there's anything we're unsure of or need a little help rejigging our memories. And this is a guide on a website called Game of Guides. It's a little bit more of a simple walkthrough, not as in depth, but there's some great images to help guide you through the game if you do get stuck. So again, we'll link both of these guides in the show notes/description. So Matt, do you fancy trying your best to give us a super quick recap of the story so far?
So I'll try and do it in very, very short form here. So obviously Rio has come out of the cave, ended up in Bailu village with Shenhua, and her father, Mr. Yuan, has gone missing. After going around the village asking stonemasons for information, he comes across a gang called the Blue Spiders, who have been going around trashing Bailu village looking for the stonemasons and looking for the Phoenix Mirror. Rio takes out two of the thugs quite handily, actually, and then loses to their boss, whose name eludes me right now. So if somebody could remember his name, it would be really helpful.
Yanlang, that one?
Yanglan, that's it. Brilliant. I knew it was something like that. So he loses to Yanglang twice, in fact, and then has to go and learn a body check move from Mr. Sun. And then eventually takes him down. They extract information from him in interrogation more than Shenhua does, using what I think is probably her powers. And then they get the mysterious scroll from Elder Ye, which tells them to go to Niaowu, and also makes reference to a cliff temple and the mirrors, etc. So they head off to Niaowu, and you come in on the first scene in Niaowu. It swoops over the river, and you see the boat that they're traveling on, and the music might be instantly recognizable to a lot of people because it's the music from the Sega Saturn trailer back in the day. So it actually fits it really nicely, I think.
Yeah, I quite like it. I mean, I'm glad they've found a use for that song because if you hadn't actually heard that Sega Saturn Shenmue footage, which is either on YouTube, I suppose, but back in the day, you had to complete Shenmue 2 on the Xbox version. Or was it both? It could have been on the Dreamcast as well.
Dreamcast as well,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember
On the
rightly.
Shenmue 2's version of the Passport disc, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So if for some reason you may have missed that, it's nice that they've found a use for that piece of music.
Yeah. So you sort of sweep in. It shows the boat pulling up into the docks. Rio and Shenhua step off, and he looks over to his right, and he can see the cormorant fisherman, and it sort of draws in on this one particular one who's got his sticks up with some crows balancing perfectly on, and Rio sort of takes a note of that as like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And then also the scene cuts up to a woman, a very sort of mysterious looking woman who we haven't come across before, and she sat at the top of the boat looking out, and there's a lot of attention paid to that, so it obviously gives you the intention that chances are she's going to have a part to play going forward. And I can't remember her name. Oh, it's Li Feng. Li Feng is her name.
Oh, Li Feng. Okay, so that's obviously we'll get to that in the future, but that is her name for
Yeah.
now. Kind of, yeah. And I just think, do you reckon everything that's happening to Rio at this point, it's all of a new experience? He's experiencing new culture and everything there. So seeing the cormorant fishermen, like the cormorant birds on the stick there, he could have been taken aback by that because that is something extremely new to him. First time he's seen fishermen like that before,
Yeah,
perhaps
definitely.
using birds to catch fish.
Yeah, and also it's just probably the first time he's been in that sort of setting. I mean, a proper riverside town slash city. I mean, it's based on a real setting. Niaowu. It's based on Fenyang, and
Mm.
you've got the river flowing literally right through the middle of it, and the port and everything. It's quite a bustling place, and it's very different to say Hong Kong. It's also very different to Bailu Village, and it's a bit of a culture change, especially actually more for Shenhua actually as well. Bearing in mind she'd never left Bailu Village until then.
Yeah, that's true. She's always been in this rural environment, and speaking to her, she'd not even heard of Japan, even.
No, no.
So seeing a place like this, shops, bustling city streets, and hotels and that sort of stuff is very alien. I would have thought to Shenhua.
Yeah, definitely. So you get off the boat. You get a little cutscene where you're told to go hotel Niaowu. Everything's all been taken care of, and I think they take Rio's bag off of him as well. This time, at least, it doesn't get nicked.
That's interesting. So you think that's kind of like a package deal they've done with a company somewhere that's like, as soon as you arrive, you'll be taken care of. You'll get someone will know who you are straight away as you get off the boat. Someone will tell you what room and where you're staying, and someone will hold on to your luggage and make sure that that's taken to the room for you.
It's pretty swanky, doesn't it, really, when you think
Yeah,
about it?
it's good, isn't it? It's a
Very
good. What
good
ticket you've
deal.
had to buy for that has turned out to be pretty cool.
So you step off the boat, that cutscene plays. You then go forward a bit more, and another little cutscene will play, and it will focus in on the Chobu-chan poster, and
Yeah,
it tells you what Chobu-chan is, and it's a little toy that appears in every shop. And if you successfully spot it in the shops, you get a shop card. And there is a lot of these Chobu-chans, and some of them are so difficult to find. You could spend hours in the game just doing this. I mean, they sort of did a spin-off with the Bailu-chan stuff in the Battle Rally DLC, and it's
yeah,
great fun. It's really
yeah.
addictive as
I love
well.
this. I think I might be wrong, but I think there's 120.
Sounds about
And
right.
yeah, I think if there's a shop that's manned by an NPC, I think there's a Chobi-chan in there. So there's a couple that actually step off the boat on the right that there isn't.
Mm.
Because, like I say, there isn't an NPC there, but every other shop and, even the arcade, even the hotel, I think even the martial arts dojo area, the Wushen Hall, I
Yeah.
think that has a Chobi-chan as well. So yeah, it's just fun just trying to discover these little yellow chicken things.
Yeah, I mean, there's loads of them, and they're some, as I say, some of them are really well hidden. Like some like form decoration for these shops,
Yeah,
and
like camouflage.
you'd miss them. You would absolutely miss them, and I think it's an inspired little mini game actually by the team at WiseNet. Actually, it's a really good
Could be
idea.
its own game, really.
It could be actually. There's a little mobile game for you. So they do that. Then you sort of go off to the left hand side and start walking down the main sort of pier bit, and you get a couple of little cutscenes as well there. One guy's trying to sell Rio food. He says it's budget
Hmm.
friendly. It's actually out of one of the trailers, from one of the earlier trailers, actually in Niaowu. And another woman
Yeah,
tries to sell Rio tea, and he
T,
had
that's a funny one.
and he has a bit, and his face is a picture. He's like, "Oh, I don't like that," and sort of tries to run away pretty
I
quickly.
think probably because last time he denied tea at Fang Mei's, he got in trouble for. So she keeps offering him tea, and he feels like he's got to keep having it.
Yeah, so he does that. Then at that point, you're free to explore if you want to, but I think you arrive in the evening quite late, so you don't have long. So you go back, you go over to the hotel now. You meet the hotel clerk, Ma Jialing, I think is how you pronounce it,
Yeah,
and she's the lady with all the curlers in her hair, and she's a character. We'll
yeah. We
talk.
actually we've seen concept art of a Project Berkeley days, I believe.
I think
That's one
so.
of the
Yeah,
ones I can remember seeing.
she's been around
Sort
a
of like
while.
it's like Kung Fu Hustle.
Yes, yeah,
There's
yeah.
like a lady in that. I think she's probably inspired by that lady.
Yeah, she's a character as well, but we'll talk about a bit more about her later. And then you go up to your room, and that's sort of the end of that particular day. Now in Hotel Niao, you obviously have for Kickstarter backers who backed and got the international calling card. You have the phone, so you can call home if you want to, or you can buy the calling cards from the reception desk. I can't remember how much they are, but they're relatively pricey, and you only get one use of them. Whereas the international calling card backers get unlimited use of that card, so you can call home to like Tom,
And I
etc.
think actually there's two separate things per card. So the international phone card, I think, has its own set of
It does.
conversations as
It
well,
does. It has its own set of conversations.
which is a little bit annoying if you want to play Shenmue 3 on any other device or
Mm,
console or something that you didn't back on originally. So it's only so for me, I mean, I can probably play it on the PS5 because I got the PS4 version. That's where I got the international phone card. But for example, on the PC, even Steam or Epic, I cannot get those conversations no matter what I do because they're backer exclusive. But I mean, it was a nice incentive to be a Kickstarter backer, I suppose.
yeah, exactly. And then so you go up to your room and you sort of settle in. There's some nice little touches in there. Actually, you have there's a notebook on the desk next to Rio's bed where there's some messages from the fans that it's part of the Kickstarter backer. rewards. There's a poster on the wall of the Americans. You've got Mark, Tony, and Smith, and a couple of the Mad Angels on there as well. You have some apples that you can take every day, which is always helpful considering Rio wants to break from garlic, it seems. And you can go out onto the balcony and walk around as well, which is cool.
Really nice view from the balcony as well.
Yeah, it's a beautiful view from the balcony, actually. And if a little side point is, you still get some conversations with Shenhua out there. They're not as detailed as what were in Bailu Village, but they're still quite nice conversations to have. So
Yeah.
if you go back
Yeah.
to the room and you see her standing out on the balcony, you go out and you then have a conversation with her. But that's just a nice little side point. So next morning, you get up, you get told by the hotel clerk it's 28 yuan per night, and you have to cough up. So you better get a job if you haven't got any money, basically. So you can do lucky hit. You can't do lucky hit. I'm making that up. You can sell. You can do lucky hit to get toys to sell and trade at the pawn shops.
You can do the wood chopping, can't
You
you?
do your wood chopping.
You can do forklifting job.
The return of the forklifting, which actually I thought was tastefully done.
Yeah, I think it's pretty decent, to be honest.
Good fun. And also, there's the martial arts hall, Wushan Hall, where you can go and train, fight other monks, and do multi-man battles, etc. there as well. But before you leave and go and do all of that, you have a conversation with Shenhua. You agree that you're going to go out and start interrogating the locals.
Sort of split up kind of thing.
And away, and that's it. Away you go. And you're now in Niaowu. So the first thing you go and do is you have the photo of Yuan and Zhu that you were given while in Bailu Village. And you go to the Promenade District. It's the only area you can actually access at this point, because much like Bailu Village, it opens up slowly as the game goes on.
What do you think of that as just an interesting side point? Because, I mean, obviously they don't want to program conversations for NPCs further down the line for story points that aren't even in those areas, if you know what I mean. So I can see why they may have boarded off some locations, but there is quite a lot of shortcuts, which I do feel like open up a bit too late.
Yeah, there are. I mean,
annoyingly,
you've got the shortcut from the docks. They go where the cormorant fishes are. Go round to the back to where Lucian Hall, the shrine is, for example, where you meet Shilling. That's a big one. There's another one at the top of that road where you end up on Sonari Road, etc. And I just think they probably, it's a little bit frustrating. I think probably for newer players more than anything else. I mean, they did it in Shenmue 1 for us. If you remember, for example, when you start the game and you try and sort of, you're talking about
finding the black kite,
you can't go to Dobuita immediately. So it's in keeping with the other games, but I can see the frustration around it.
Yeah.
But there we are. It is what it is. So you sort of walk around there and you get a cutscene. This cutscene was leaked by Siebman on our forums from Walmart of all bloody places.
This was interesting, wasn't it? Because at the time we didn't believe him.
No.
And he said, I think he came back from Walmart,
told us,
and he was posting on the dojo like, I've just seen like a brand new trailer. And we were like, could you go back and get evidence?
Yeah, because you know what it's like. Did. You know what it's like, don't you, on the internet? And in fair play to him, I think Peter was streaming at the time, and he did.
Yeah. We were kind of gobsmacked, to be honest, because there was quite a lot of footage that we hadn't actually seen up until that point in this new trailer.
Yeah. So what happens here is part of this trailer is that a guy in blue who's a fortune teller runs down. He says something like, I only told his fortune wine is bad for his luck. And he goes to punch the fortune teller. So you have a little QTE, press X, and then Rio knocks the guy out. Standard Rio, really, taking out people. His name is He Kung Zin. I don't know if I pronounced that right.
That's all right.
And he's the fortune teller, which is at Tortoise Shell, which is on the sort of upper level of the promenade.
That is another little secret cutscene as well. Well, not secret as such, because he does tell Rio to, if you ever need your fortune told, come meet me here. But unless you actually do enter his shop, you never actually see this cutscene where he kind of like thanks Rio again.
Yeah, he does.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah,
and I don't know if he actually does do fortune telling if you go back to him, or it's just literally just for that one scene. I can't remember.
I haven't tried it, but definitely for that one scene, he tells you fortune, which is quite a nice little touch. Actually, I think actually Shenmue 3 could have done with a little bit more of that little. I just made it feel like an environment and made it feel like it was alive, but that's just a personal feeling. So sort of moving on, you go up the promenade, and you can then sort of walk around, start asking people stuff. And then what happens from that is you follow the street up, and you can sort of go into the shrine area where it's a loading area where you're forced to walk. If
Oh
you
yeah,
so,
yeah,
and Lemon's got a mod for that if you've got it on PC, if you don't want to hang around walking. And you'll see a shop on the left called the Stone Buddha, and you go there and speak with the owner of the shop, who suggests that you go to the ferry terminal as they take a photo of all the tourists, and there might be a clue there. So, sort of going back into the Baidu Village story, when you're looking through that stonemason's house that's been ransacked, you find the list. And you also find a photo of Mr. Yuan and his friend there. So you've got that photo in your hand essentially, and you're going around asking, "Have you seen this man? Have you seen this man?" And
yeah.
the shop owner turns around and says no. But if you go to the ferry terminal, which is on the main street where you obviously you came into Niaowu, they have like a
Mm.
big photo board there of all the tourists that are coming in, and she suggests that you look there to see if he might be on there at all. So what you end up doing, you go back to the ferry terminal, you go in there, and you enter first person mode, and you start searching these photos. Also inside, as a little side point, you can apply for the forklift job, and
That's at Beijing, and
yeah,
it ends up being Dylan's
it's
brother,
Dylan's,
which is
yeah,
pretty
which is pretty cool because he goes because
pretty
he
nice
says
touch.
he goes, "Is that Dylan?" And he goes, "No, but that's my brother's name."
Because he's kind of dressed the same and
Yeah,
looks the same to a point.
to a point, yeah. So it's quite a nice little nod to the second game, which I thought, and also he teaches you a move, brawling uppercut two, which I
So
found quite
I
funny.
like those. I mean, I think as long as they don't go too over the top with fan service and things, but like little Easter eggs like that kind of work. You know, we had that one in Shenmue 2 where if you go to the top floor in Yanton Apartments, you get Wang's brother.
Yeah, yeah, that's quite a cool one
Who
actually.
that's so they've kind of repeated that again. You're getting Dalin's brother, but I feel like if that is a theme in each game, that'd be pretty funny.
Don't know how they do that in four, but we'll see.
See where it goes. Good to
um,
see someone else's brother.
so you go over to the picture board on the left hand side, and the picture you're looking for is on the right hand board to the far right, second from the bottom.
Yeah.
Um, and you if you want to take your time, actually, you can see like pictures of like hotel owners, shop owners, etc. Just sort of get a feel for Niao itself. But you find this photo, and in the photo, you find what appears to be Mr. Yuan, his friend, and some thugs in front of a Buddha shop. You then go back to the hotel to show Shenhua, and she confirms it is her father. Great, excellent.
Mhm.
So now you need to work out where the hell this photo was taken, which takes you over to Vendor Avenue, which, for those of you who are a bit unfamiliar, if you go up the promenade, you come to the split, you turn right, and you walk through where all these shops are. You turn right again, go down the street to the left hand side, past Joseph Kitchen Noodles, and that's basically the whole sort of area, if you like, for Vendor Avenue. It's with basically all like the outdoorsy type shops, so where they're selling food, guitars, everything that you can find in
Yeah.
Niao, it's all there. So you shoot along down there, and you sort of have a walk around. You can start asking people for things if you want to. But when you approach Vendor Avenue, you come across Li Feng, the woman that we saw on the boat, and she says
Mm.
hello to Rio, and you sort of continue down Vendor Avenue and sort of going
I
around.
think doesn't some kid come running up to her or something?
I think that's a
Or
later
is
cutscene, but
a little bit later.
I
Okay.
might be wrong in that.
So she just recognises Rio again,
Yeah,
and
she
she's
reckon.
kind of like just positioning herself in places she knows Rio's gonna
Yeah, and
pass. Kind of, yeah.
she knows that he's around, and she recognizes him from the boat. Which is at this point, obviously, you don't know what her point, what was say, what her role is in the
Yeah.
story as such.
It appears like Rio's got a little bit of a fancy towards her.
Yeah,
That's how it comes
possibly. It
across.
does seem that way, doesn't it? He's a bit. I mean, he's rubbish with women anyway, but it does come across that he might have a bit of a thing for her. So that cutscene sort of comes and goes, and then you sort of walk around Vendor Avenue, you ask your questions, etc. If you want to sort of rush to it, there's a place called Buddha Market. Is what you need. As a little boy watching the shop, you ask him about the photo, and he said to come back at 8 o'clock.
Yeah. That's when his dad comes or something. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly that. And you can fast travel to 8 p.m. if you want at that point. You can sort of have a wander around. And then his father comes back and says he remembers seeing Johan. He's been guided with some thugs. and he informs you that they were extorting the shops on the promenade, and the shops over there might know a little bit more about it. So again, by this point, it's the end of the day. You go back to the hotel to update Shenhua on the situation. And the next day, you head off to the promenade to search for information about the thugs and return to the beginning of Vendor Avenue and go left this time instead of right. So this takes you to the rest of the promenade district. So you go up some steps basically, and you've got like martial arts shops on the right hand side. You've got some antique shops on the left hand side. Behind you, you've got a pawn shop. At the top of the stairs, you've got a big arcade. And on the right hand side, you've got some more shops. You've got the gambling
Smart ball,
area,
I think I
except
remember.
smart ball
Yeah.
and the gambling areas, etc. as well. And if you keep going straight, it comes out onto Sonari Road, where left you've got the shrine, and then right you've got some more sort of shops and bars, but we get there a bit later on anyway.
Yeah.
So you sort of scoot around there. I just walking around, and this is the cutscene you were just talking about, actually, James. You
Right.
see Li Feng again talking to a child,
That's the
and,
one, yeah.
and Rio asks her about these thugs, and she points out there might be a thug just up ahead at the dry goods shop.
Hmm.
And when you get closer, he's clearly trying to take the woman's money. And I think they make reference to this in one of the trailers as well. They do, in fact. He goes, "What are you saying to me?" And Rio grabs his hand and says, "Stop it." That's
Yeah.
a cutscene from, I believe, E3 2019, if my memory is correct from that trailer. So you got Rio in Rio fashion, goes, "We're not having some of this," and you have a cutscene, a QTE scene come up, which is depending on what you're on, triangle, square, circle for PlayStation, Y, X, B for PC, or if you're using an Xbox controller, for example. And it's quite casual actually how Rio sort of just does him
Yeah.
in, sort of
Is this
casually
the one where
dodges
he
him.
keeps sort of pushing him and he keeps
Yeah,
looking like he's going to fall over and then he grabs him back and
yeah, he sort of toys with him a little bit, and
yeah,
if you let it sort of go, the guy like falls into the shops and stuff, and Rhea's like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," and it's
yeah.
quite funny. But he toys with him a lot, and it's just I don't know, it's the first time I've seen Rhea really toy with a thug like that, so it was a bit of a change of pace.
So a little point on Li Feng. Do you think this little sequence is sort of set up by her, or
I mean, it's possible. I mean, you wouldn't rule it out. I mean, I'd have been interested to see what was left on the cutting room floor around her involvement as time sort of progressed, but it wouldn't have surprised me if that was manipulated.
yeah,
It just
interesting.
it fits the character later on, which we'll get into.
Hmm.
So after beating the crap out of this thug, or say beating the crap out of him, casually just knocking him out, Rio will talk to the shop owner, and she tells him that there's these thugs that like to loiter over at Bustling Diner, which is on Blossom Road.
Hmm.
So you go up the promenade, you see the arcade on the left, you come to the fork, and you go to the right hand side, and you're on New Paradise, you go down to Blossom Road. Head down there, and you'll be forced to walk around the tables, which again is another loading area before you hit it.
Right in
Again,
front of that's the Save Shenmue building as well.
it is. So before, and this is like a sort of a side point, as you come out of there, the Save Shenmue building's right in front of you. And for sort of Kickstarter backers who backed at certain tiers, you can go in there. There's photos there of people in the game. You can also buy the dice capsule cubes for people who've backed at that tier in there as well. Also, a nice little touch is when you do the forklift job, you sometimes take like big models of like the wacky mole people, etc., and they appear in the Safe Shenmue building the next day, which is really
That's a
cool.
nice touch, isn't it? Yeah.
So it's all sort of linked, which is really cool. And the music in that building is absolutely fantastic,
Mm.
especially at night. Recommend it. So anyway, apart from the Safe Shenmue building, you go to the right hand side anyway. You go down the hill. You head towards the Bustling Diner. If you get lost, you can sort of ask people where you're going, etc. as well. I believe you can. I think you can explore the left hand side actually as well, where you go up to like Lu He Hall on the left hand side, and also the shrine at the top, which is used later on in the game as well. But it's worth sort of referencing it.
Yep.
So apart from the Safe Shenmue building, which as I say is an awesome place to go, if you go to the right hand side, and what you'll do is you'll wander down the hill and you'll end up at the Bustling Diner, which is on the left hand side. And it's the first building on the left hand side. You'll see these tables outside with two thugs. Liu and Zhang are sitting at it. and a cinematic approaches as you approach them, and you fight both of them at the same time. So you have a little dual fight there. When you beat them up, you have a little QTE, which is X and triangle on PlayStation, or on Xbox it's A and Y. So after you succeeded, they leg it,
Yeah.
which is quite good. So here we go, Jimmy Chase Part 2. So you get your QTEs for it. I won't sort of go into all of it now. The short ones are easier, but you get your QTEs. And what I will say actually is some funny fail states here. So one of them, they pull this girl off a ladder and she drops to the floor. Rio catches her if you make it. If you don't, she has some sort of like Spider-Man power where she lands flat on her feet and
Yeah.
casually strolls off from Rio's face because he dived to save her. It's quite funny.
It is funny.
Another one, which I think is quite funny, is there's this guy carrying this massive log. It's huge, and you duck under it if you complete it. If you don't, he turns around and cracks Rio square in the face with it.
Yeah, and there's also the fire extinguisher.
Oh, this is the best one. This is the best one at the end of this one. So you've done all of this, and it's looking good, and all the rest of it. And then what ended up happening is the guy launches a fire extinguisher at you. Now, Rio, if you make it, sort of casually matrix dodges it, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, like a bullet.
But if you bugger it up, you get smashed in the face with a fire extinguisher. And it makes a proper thwack sound.
Proper clank, yeah, like a proper metal clank sound.
It's really funny, really good. So you lose track of them anyway at the end of it. And you're at the entrance to Vendor Avenue. You think, well, I've got to go and try and find them. So you head down Vendor Avenue to the area where you found the Buddha Market stand. And when you enter the next area, a cinematic plays where guess who we meet? We meet Ren.
Isn't this the scene? Oh no, that's the handbag scene, isn't it? I'm thinking of where you get the cormorant ducks and stuff.
That's the later one. So you go on and meet Ren, who is buying noodles from Joseph Kitchen's Fried Noodles of all places. And Ren's like going, "Give me food, I want more food." And from this point, you have a conversation. Rio's like, "What are you doing here?" And he says, "Oh, treasure. Yeah, you remember what we said in Kowloon?" And from this point onwards, you can sort of see what Ren sort of casually walking around the harbour area, and sometimes he heads sort of towards Golden Goose and New Paradise as well.
What did you make of the Ren introduction here? Did you think it was a bit?
It fell a
lacking,
bit
or
flat for me.
I mean, it's a nice, funny scene, kind of, but again, I know we've spoken about this before. When Rio sees Chai in Bailu Village, you think there'd be a bit more of a reaction to seeing I think character like Ren making it all the way to Niaowu.
I think Ren's reaction is actually all right because he takes a mickey out of Rio, goes, "Oh, you're making that face again," and all the rest of it. But I think Rio's reaction is a bit muted. I would have liked a bit more there, but that's a personal thing. But it's not quite Chai reaction where he clearly has forgotten him.
Yeah, I mean, the Ren thing is kind of to be expected because Rio's going after something that Ren considers treasure or whatever, and that's his aim in life. But just popping up there is quite a surprise, I would have thought.
And one little line is Rio turns around and says, "Oh, Ren could pass for one of those red snakes as well."
Red snakes,
which was a little bit funny. Yeah, you can see the point. But you're back to square one at the end of the day here. So you go back to the bustling diner to ask about the thugs and the waiters outside, who tells you they trash Jiao Temple, which is on the left-hand side as you come to the fork of the road opposite the Shenmue.
That's right at the very top, isn't it?
Right at
beautiful
the top.
building, actually.
Fantastic
really nice
building.
how they've made it.
Lovely building. It fits the aesthetics really well, actually.
And in fact, that's where was it there's something about dreams?
Yes, there's some of the Kickstarter backer messages are in there.
Yeah.
So what you end up doing, you go back up there towards the temple. You'll see Louis He Hall on the left, but you can ignore that for now. Just remember it's there. You keep going up the steps, and in here you'll see a mess that the thugs have caused, and the monk there sort of comes out and tells you about the room in the back where the Kickstarter's backers pledged a lot of money. You can find their names on the wall.
Yeah.
And you go up there if you want to have a look at it. And as you go to leave, you get a cutscene where the guy tells you that thugs are usually seen around Sonari Road. And you also get, I think, a random move scroll.
That's true. You do, don't you? And I think it has got the Hobao Hazuki kanji characters on there,
It does
but
indeed.
I'm not sure whether or not Rio actually makes that point, or that's more like
Mm,
that's something as a player you see.
it's
Is it Thunder Palm? I think.
Yeah, and it's left like it's never mentioned ever again. But I want because when I picked that up, originally I was sat there thinking this is going to be vital to the story going forward, and it sort of got
Yeah,
left a little bit. It might
yeah. I
be in
don't know if that's
Shenmue 4.
intentional. It's just like a that's true, yeah. But like you say, I think if you inspect the move scroll, it literally says Hobao Hazuki on the thing. I
Mm,
think.
it does, and we that caused a few theories on the forums, didn't it? But I don't know what the aim of that was. I mean, we
Well, I think Rio is
he's retracing his father's footsteps.
bizarrely, yeah, exactly. And I know we've spoken about it in the past. You've got that theory with Chenhua that she's like her own ancestor kind of thing.
Yeah,
So there's that kind of situation going on with Rio, just not obviously on the same sort of extent, but Rio is redoing basically what his father did 20 years ago.
yeah, true,
And,
true.
potentially that's what Shenhua's doing herself that
Yeah,
20 years ago. I don't
could
know. You know what I
it
mean?
could be. I mean, it's interesting, and it does beg the question because we know Niaowu had some cuts to it in terms of story content. That's been publicly talked about for ever since the game was released, and I do wonder if that may have linked into more going on. We'll never know.
Hmm.
Although if I ever get hold of anybody who'll tell me, I will ask. But
Yeah,
there we are. So side point away, you have to go at this point. You go to Scenari Road. And this is where actually you could have done with the shortcut being open.
that's true. Like through that door at the bottom there. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's a bit of a trek round. Unfortunately, I don't see what you benefit you have by not having that shortcut open. But
It does feel like they've kind of like slowly introduced each of these areas.
mm,
But like you say, I mean that door doesn't even open till like the very end of the game, so it is a bit of a struggle constantly having to run around just to get to
yeah,
somewhere that's further up the street from that. But I will stop you now for a second, man, as we move into the Sonari Road aspect of this guide. And we're going to play something that's going to be coming up within Sonari Road is the Lu Jiao Shrine. And there's a piece of music there just to give us a little bit of a break throughout all this spoken word dialogue. Let's have a little bit of music to break things up a bit. So here it is. Okay, welcome back. That was Lu Jiao Shrine. But yeah, carry on, man.
right. I'm glad you stopped me when you did because I was going off on one.
No problem.
There's a lot of
We've
me
got
talking.
a couple more coming up, but I will I'll make sure I intercept you.
Yeah, do. Right. So You head off to Scenari Road, which is past Fender Avenue because the bloody shortcut's not open, and you go past like the sort of the beachfront, for want of a better word, of the river, and you can walk up that road, and you keep going, and what you end up seeing is a fisherman's wharf, and Scenari Road's on the left hand side. You enter Scenari Road and you spot a small boat on the dock with a red snake's logo on it, and next to it is Jiao Shrine. You go there to ask some information about the thugs, but you don't actually see anyone, and it's a tip. It's been trashed like the other temple you've been to.
Yeah.
And then you sort of continue over, looking at the second building, which is on the far left hand side, and you get a QT cutscene with Ling Shilling, and she tries to attack you with a broom.
Do you think this is the same scene, or do you think it's a different location from early screenshots or whatever we had, where there's Rio being attacked by obviously the same person, Lin Shilling? On you sort of had a backdrop in the
Yeah,
early screenshot of, like, the Niaowu buildings sort of things across the river, whereas this is kind of like away from that now, in
yeah.
the Shrine area.
I think the cutscene hasn't probably changed. I think maybe the backdrop to it probably changed a little bit as things go on.
Yeah,
But I do find it funny that she's trying to attack you with a broom, so you sort of
she's
casually
sweeping. Yeah,
get away with that as you go, and realizes you're not a thug. And she apologizes and tells you she saw the thugs arrive with two men, which are Yuan and Zhu.
yeah.
She tells you that she sees them up ahead on Scenari Road several times, and just like the previous temple that you went to, there's, if you go into the back building, there's some more Kickstarter notes in the back, so you have a look there for some of the messages there as well. As you leave, again, you get a cutscene where she apologizes and sort of wants to know what's going on, essentially. And Rio's like, well, I can't really get you involved. And you get a Liu Zhao Shrine phone card.
There's also, I don't know if you can access it at this point, but there's, like, in the second building, there's one of those rotary
There is.
puzzle things, and I don't actually know how, or what, if there's a way of discovering how you figure that actually out.
I believe there's a side quest to it which allows you to do it, but don't quote me on that. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I don't remember either. I just remember Googling how to actually solve that. So I don't know if someone just practiced and practiced until something happened. But I think you get a phone card from that as well, or
You do,
was it?
you do, you get something from it. So get that cutscene. Rio's like, no, you're not getting it. Yeah, I'm not gonna get you involved, etc. So you leave the shrine. You go to the next building over. You talk to the waitress outside, and she tells you that Wang Zhenyong knows more about the thugs, and he's over at Duck Heaven, which is up just literally around the side of that building.
Yep.
You see a path. It goes a sign of it saying Duck Heaven. It goes to this fenced area with ducks inside, and Wen is in there. You ask about the thugs, and they'll tell you if you help them catch the ducks, which is basically the chicken game again, but with
Yeah.
ducks.
But this time you can actually do it as a job, which is
You can earn
it's
money.
not too bad actually. If I know some of the QTs are quite evil, especially on these duck sort of things, but I do feel like I've been playing it again on the PC, and I don't know if it's just tighter on the PC, maybe because my PC's a bit more powerful than when I first experienced it on the PS4 original or whatever back in the back in the day, 2 years ago.
Back in the
But
day.
yeah, but I do feel like the timing was a little bit more punishing on the PS4 than what I just played on Steam. But I mean, that could just be because I'm expecting them now, whereas my
Yeah,
first
possibly.
playthrough I'm not. I don't
I
know.
mean, the windows are tight. There's no getting around that. I do think they should probably have made them ever so slightly easier for everybody's sanity
Yeah, but it's not
more
as
than
bad as I
anything else.
remember anyway.
No, but I do think they are quite tough, especially on nightmare mode. Christ, the window there is really tough.
Mm.
So you catch chicken or ducks rather, where you getting it confused, and after you've done that, you get told about the thugs, and they like to hang around over in New Paradise, which is the gambling area with all the lucky hit boards. I think there's some lucky hit boards got some faces on it from Kickstarter backers in there.
Yeah.
And specifically, he refers to a place called the Golden Goose, which is the casino in the New Paradise district. He gives you some money for catching the ducks, and that opens up the job there if you want to go and do it. And you can come back there and sort of, whenever you want during the day, earn a bit of money if you want to, and practice your QTEs, because God forbid you're going to need it. So they head over to New Paradise, which is obviously it's outside the arcade at the promenade. It's opposite, essentially. You can't really miss it. And you go down towards New Paradise. There's not a huge amount there. You've got the Mirren Cafe across the wooden red bridge. And actually, if you go into that cafe and go down the stairs, you got the dummies in there, the wooden dummies, which I always thought was a bit disconcerting. If you remember that cafe in there,
The Muren, yeah,
yeah,
always looked a bit strange.
yeah, it's a bit.
dressed up and painted faces and stuff.
So
I think that was something that Yu Suzuki
he
actually.
thought it was
I
funny, didn't
remember
he?
him talking about. Yeah, he was talking about it in one of the early interviews or something. He was mentioning this place, so I think that was probably fresh on the cutting room floor that they'd just done, and he's quite excited about people seeing this Murren cafe area.
Yeah, it's quite funny. It was a bit, I did think it's a bit funny, but you can also actually train there as well. There's a training area, which is always handy if you want it.
And in fact, that training area there that you're on about, with the where you can actually do your 1 inch punch and your horse stance, etc. There's extra NPCs there that kind of like cheer Rio on.
Yeah.
And that's like the only areas where these people that actually cheer you on for doing those training activities, which is quite funny or annoying if after quite a while, I suppose, they keep saying the same things.
Oh dear. So anyway, you go to the Golden Goose, you go and talk to some of the staff there. You can play some mini games there if you want. You've got Lucky Hit, you've got I think Frog Racing and Turtle Racing's there as well. So if you want to blow some tokens, good place to do it.
Flowerbird, Wind and Moon
Moon's there as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
You go and do that. The staff won't tell you anything. Rather unhelpful when you're blowing tokens. Thank you. You know, could have given me some information. What you then go and do is you've got the prize exchange next door. You go to the second floor and you talk to the person on the desk there who tells you they cause a lot of trouble at the Mirren Cafe. So you can go back to the Mirren Cafe and speak to the two people over by the stairs, and they'll tell you that Kisu or Husu, I can't pronounce that. He's the big dude, basically. From Liu Hall drove off the Red Snakes one time, and that he's pretty handy with Kung Fu. And again, it makes reference if you want to practice your Kung Fu there, you can go and do it. So when you're done there, you can go to Liu He Hall, which is on Blossom Road on the left-hand side before you hit the temple. So you go up there and you find it empty. There's a lady standing outside and she tells you that Sue isn't there at the moment and you should come back tomorrow. That's the end of your day. That's all you can do. So you can either go back to the hotel or you can sort of mess around, play some mini games, do some forklifting, whatever takes your fancy, because you're going to need some money later on, but we'll get to that point. Next morning, you leave your room. You see this wealthy couple across from Shenhua's room exit again. Now, I missed this actually, so going back to it, the first day that you're there, you see them come out of this room complaining about the room. They're complaining about it again, basically.
Yeah.
They talk about upgrading to a suite. So
quite an interesting couple, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very. I can't remember the term they use for it in the game, but there's a certain term they use in the game for them, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, and the music that plays kind of is a bit comical, isn't it? It's
yeah, very comical, very comical. So next morning, you leave your hotel and you're going to head off to the Louis Hugh Hall. So you leave the hotel and you start heading back to the hall. As you approach Vendor Avenue, you get a cinematic where you see that particular couple splashing the cash. And they're trying to buy monk fruit. Actually, it's another cut. It's a cutscene again from I think it's 2019 E3, or it might be Games. I can't quite remember the timings.
Or is it the release trailer, A Day in the Life?
It
maybe
might be in that as well. As well. So cutscene, sort of cinematic cutscene, and you get a robber nicks the purse of the lady. You get your QTE sequence. This is the one you're talking about, the Coromant fisherman.
Right, so this eventually, the guy runs and heads down to there.
Yeah, exactly that. So the chase kicks off and you jump over some tables and stuff, and there's a couple of little funny cutscenes here, like one bit where the thief runs past a guy fishing, knocks his fish over. Rio can cock that up and like go flying over.
I love that little bit.
Over the fish, and the guy bops him on the head with his
I mentioned it before to Peter that for some reason the graphics look better in these scenes. I don't know why. It just looks smoother, and like those fish bobbing on the deck, it just looks so good.
It's funny, isn't it? I actually think the cutscenes, in terms of the way they've been captured, are very well done. I know the game animations get sort of slated a little bit, but the cutscene animations, the fighting animations in those cutscenes are really good. They're really smooth. They look really, really good, and actually can show that if there's you have the time to do it, you can get some really good stuff. But obviously, budget and etc. comes into it. But
Yeah.
I will leave that there. There's another little cutscene where you try to jump on the boats. If you bugger it up, you end up falling in the water. The last one that you bugger up, if you do, Rio will fall flat forward and he'll hold onto the boat at one end, his feet are on the other, and it starts like moving away. So he's going in the water, and the cormorant bird just sort of squawks in his face, and he goes poof straight into the water.
That's
And
another one of the funny cutscene things.
so, if there's an excuse for the QTEs being hard, you get some good sort of fail states, which is quite good. Anyway, assuming you pass the QTE, of course, you end up on this boat, and the cormorant fisherman is the fisherman that you saw at the start of the Niaowu section. Basically owns this dude, recovers the purse, and gives it to Rio. And then Rio takes the purse back to the hotel, leaves it with the clerk, and it will return to the couple when they go back. Which now means you can actually make it to Luihi Hall, and you meet Ki Su there. He will ask you to spar before he's wanting to talk with you. You spar with him, you have a chat, and he says that the red snakes often go to the golden goose.
Right. So, before we get back to the Golden Goose, then, obviously that's in New Paradise, so I was going to play a piece of music that plays in New Paradise. So, let's have a little break and we'll listen to that right now. Okay, welcome back. That was New Paradise, and we're heading back there again right now, Matt.
We are. So now we're heading off to the Golden Goose, and you still find that the employees won't talk to you about the red snakes at all. If you talk to the guy on the desk about becoming a VIP member, she informs you that it takes 2 months to process the application. Alternatively, you can become a VIP on the spot if you can get a referral letter from an existing Golden Goose member. So the next start of the sort of quest is you've got to find somebody to let you in, essentially. So you start searching, and everybody you speak to isn't particularly helpful. They don't really tell you if they know anybody, or they don't know any VIP members because they're all wealthy and they don't sort of socialise in their circles. You'll be told millions of times to search for rich people, but where do you find them? If you ask Sue at Lihu Hall, he says that harbour employees at the warehouse often go to the Golden Goose. They might be able to point you in the right direction. You can actually skip all that and speak with one of the forklift employees, and they'll tell you to speak to Jijing, and then he turns around and gives you a bit of advice there. But then what you can do as well... Oh, this is weird. I didn't do this, I'm reading it.
Whereabouts are you now? I've kind of lost.
Golden Goose VIP, third paragraph.
When you get to the ferry terminal, you speak tongues. Really, the brother, Asian one is a rich guy. Okay. I think they all kind of say the same thing, because I went down and I think I spoke to like that Rick Tamblyn, whatever the fuck his name is.
Oh, yeah.
I think he says a very similar thing, but you can go with this because this is how you essentially meet Beijing, I suppose.
Yes, okay. So you head over, you speak to Beijing. You obviously know who he is. We've sort of talked about it already. He's Dylan's brother, essentially. He tells you the rich guy has been going to the Golden Goose a lot, and he's staying at the Hotel Niaowu.
It's good that actually this is just one of many ways of discovering this information.
It
Very
is
Shenmue-esque. It's not one specific person has the details. You can,
no, which is why I got thrown a little bit when reading it because I thought I didn't do it that way, but it
yeah,
doesn't matter. Um, it's you Rio sort of has this flashback moment of that wealthy couple at the hotel, and you go back to the hotel. When you go inside, you have to go and knock on their door. It's room 207. No one's there. You go downstairs, you speak to the hotel clerk, and you actually learn they've complained and upgraded to a suite, which is now room 203. So you go and knock on the door, and the guy answers and doesn't recognize you. But his wife comes to the door, realizes who you are, the one who got her purse back,
there
and
you go.
she
All
makes
the
her
seeds are planted.
yeah, she makes her husband give you the referral letter that you need. Now you actually have the Golden Goose referral. You can go in. So you go back over there, you get your VIP card. You have to pay 300 yuan to get in for a processing fee. So just be aware that you do need some money.
I think you should go out of your way to get money anyway at this
Yeah,
point because something's coming up where you're going to be shocked. I think.
yeah, we'll get there. And you go down the steps into the Golden Goose VIP lounge. At the bottom of these steps, you get quite a nice cutscene actually, where the Red Snake thugs are hanging around, bigging up their stories about you. You're thinking, yeah, I've taken, yeah, basically boasting they beat up Rio when they clearly didn't.
This is kind of like in Japan you've got these cafes,
Yeah,
hostess
like
bars
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah, feels like one of them, doesn't it?
It does. It feels like slightly Yakuza-esque actually
Yeah.
in the way it's sort of put over, but that's just me. You have a fight with it's a free fight. It's not cinematic, and it's probably the biggest fight in the game at this point because there's quite a few of them knocking around at this point.
And it's quite cool if you position yourself well when you're sort of flinging these guys around. If you can actually smash up some of the glass cabinets and stuff that are dotted around, which is
Yeah,
pretty
you can.
good use
Like
of the environment.
you can trash it, which is quite cool. It brings me back to the fight at Dojang Diner in Shenmue 2, where you can start putting people
Yeah,
through tables and
through
stuff.
tables and stuff. Yeah, so that's really cool. I like when they've actually done that to include the environment in the fights.
So Rio takes them out and he forces one of them to talk. He draws a map for you to locate the Red Snake's hideout, which is located directly behind Hotel Niaowu, which, if you go around the back of it, there's some steps into this
Yeah,
area, and up you go.
he draws a map actually, and this is where
Yes.
he's kicking his leg as
Yeah, he's like
he's trying to draw some map for you.
hurrying him up.
Very Wong-esque map as well, like very detailed.
Yeah. So they run off, and you go up around the back of the hotel, and you can see where the area is blocked off. They've obviously broken through and gone up the steps. You can have a look around actually up there as well. For like, there's a few buildings up there you can go and look in, and you can pick up some herbs, etc. as well.
Yeah, it's kind of some Easter eggs. There's a little area with like a Yu Suzuki doll,
Yes,
is there, or a poster or something?
poster.
Yeah, I feel like there's like another like sort of Miren dummy thing lying in a
Yeah,
bed or something. I think.
it's a bit strange, but
Yeah.
yeah. So you go up there anyway, and you go to this large warehouse, which actually has Virtua Fighter written on it randomly. Which
I think there's just like loads of little Easter eggs like this for fans of the series.
So you walk in, you get this cutscene where, again, it's
I tell you what, just thinking about it, is it very esque of the Project Berkeley graffiti on the wall in Shenmue
it
1?
is very much so. It's in that vein. Yeah, I'd agree with that. Actually, it's very much in that Project Berkeley like graffiti vein. But so you walk in and you get this cutscene where the lights flash in Rio's face, which is the end of one of the cutscene trailers actually, and it's Mr. G or G pops up, big dude, Mr. Muscles we refer to him as in the community, as I'm sure you all know, and basically you have a fight with all of the thugs again. You take those guys out, and then you go along again and you have a fight with G, and he kicks the living crap out of you basically. And what he does
Even if you
start,
beat him.
even if you beat him,
Yeah.
Again, it's a bit like the Yang Lang fight in that you can't actually win, unfortunately.
There's a couple of those in Shenmue 2 actually, isn't there, with Donu as well, so it's not
Yeah,
a new thing.
It's not unheard of. It's just one of it's very Shenmue to do that.
Yeah.
But what he does, Mr. G, is he starts whacking out like random martial arts stance, like Mantis stance, Tiger. There's a few others as well. So, and he like nails Rio quite considerably, even though Rio's like trying to block him and everything. He just like goes through him essentially. So you lose. You get cinematic after it as well, where you go back after having your pasting. He throws you out, And you go back to the hotel, and Shenhua's like, "Oh my god, Rio's, are you okay?" And he's got cuts
Yeah.
over his face, and he's like, "Oh,
Sort
I'll
of
be fine."
comforts Rio a little bit.
Yeah. So next morning, you meet up with Ren on the pier, and Ren volunteers himself to go back with you to go and have this brawl. It does advise that you might want to practice your kung fu, but it doesn't make a difference. You're more practicing it for the end of the game at this point than anything else. So you go off. Ren goes. You have this cutscene with Ren. He says, "Meet me at the ferry terminal. I'm staying there." The two of you then go and break into the Red Snake's hideout. You fight the low level thugs again. You take them down quite easily. G comes out. Ren tries to attack him and fails miserably. Reminds me a little bit where he tries to attack Dol Neo, actually, where Rio's about to
Punching him
be
in the
captured.
stomach.
Yeah, and he's trying to
Yeah.
kick him and everything. And it's just like nothing's taking him down. It's very reminiscent of that, actually.
Yeah.
You fight the boss again, and you get beaten to hell, and you leg it basically. So the next morning on the pier, Ren and Rio discuss their options, and the only way to defeat him is to seek out the help of a martial arts master, which is ironically Rio's job to go and do. So what masters have we met? So the one that sort of springs out is Sue, the big guy, basically that you met at Luhi Hall a while back. You go up there and spar with him, ask for advice about what to do, and he tells you about his master, a grandmaster named Grandmaster Bay. He suggests you talk to him down by the harbour. So Grandmaster Bay here, he's a fisherman. You find him on the fisherman's wharf, and he's the guy who helped you get the purse back. The guy who sort of showed up all these moves. You go and have a visit, and you have a cutscene with him where you basically can't touch him, and he tells you the kung fu is lacking. And actually, this is the opening bit from the E3 2019 trailer. Actually, he goes, "Honestly, I don't think your kung fu is strong enough."
There's a quite a big emphasis on kung fu in this game in terms of like Rio's lacking it. In the
Yeah,
previous two games, it seems like masters have been quite impressed by Rio, and they've been wanting to teach him different things. And obviously, we had the with Shuing trying to teach him more patience and that sort of stuff. Whereas in Shenmue 3, it seems like the masters are even more advanced. It seems, and they're kind of looking down on Rio a little
they
bit.
are a bit, and also you got to bear in mind this is only months into the journey. It's not like we waited 20 years, but in game time he's what 6 months into this journey, so he is going to be lacking in kung fu, isn't he? He's
Yeah.
not going to be able to take these people down. The cutscenes actually, I think, is one of the best ones in the game, where he's throwing all these moves at him and he just can't touch him.
Yeah, it is very martial arts movie looking into how
Yeah.
he's doing the arm moves to block all the
Mm.
punches and stuff. It's very cool, very cinematic.
So at this point, he tells you to work on your kung fu before willing to help you. You go back to the hotel, speak with Shenhua about the fisherman, and then the next morning you meet up with Ren again. So the next task here is to try to find someone who can identify the kind of martial arts that the Mr. G was using, so that Rio can find a way to counter and defeat him.
Yeah,
So you start looking for a place where martial artists go. So much like Martial Hall in Bailu Village, you've got the Wushen Hall, but it's not particularly of any help. You visit Su over at Lihu Hall. He'll ask you to spar again, and he suggests you practice your horse stance from PV Kung Fu. You can skip this if you've already done that and you've maxed out anyway. After that, Rio will be disappointed and ask if there's another place where martial artists go to gather, and then you go back to the Murun Cafe. Over at Murun Cafe, New Paradise, you can practice there again. That's where they will sort of cheer you on.
yeah,
Speak with the manager there. He says he can't help you identify the move that Boss Slug does, but suggests again you want to practice some kung fu. You can. It's almost like the game's hinting at you to
yeah. It's
dig
trying to,
in here.
if you've not caught up yet, it's trying to say
Yeah,
make sure you get your martial arts in now because you're going to need it soon.
yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
He's Rio's disappointed again, and he tells you. He asks the manager, "Where else can I go?" And he actually says, "Well, there's a place where fighters like to gather and perform street fights."
That's good.
Mm. Now, this is probably one of my favourite little areas. Actually, it's called the Rose Garden. So you go over to the Rose Garden, and you possibly heard about it actually from Shenhua in one of the night kind of conversations. She mentions something about a rose garden, and it's down the
Yeah,
back alley.
the Shenmue conversations in Niaowu are a bit more like tutorials, aren't they? She'll keep saying like, "This I've
Yeah, they
heard about
are.
fortune tellers that can do colours and that sort of stuff. I've heard about a place where people go to practice martial arts and fight and stuff." a rose something place. I think she's heard, and I
Yeah,
think she
that's
says
it.
something like, Why would it be called the Rose Garden or something?" And if they go there to fight or something like that, because of obviously the flower side of things she's thinking of.
Yeah, and it shows her innocence a little bit
Yeah,
actually.
exactly.
It's quite a nice little touch. I mean, as I say, the conversation with Shenhua and Niaowu were good. They're just not. I wish they had the same detail as Bailu, because the Bailu ones are fantastic.
She's more kind of like surprised by some of the things that are happening, like we said at the start of the show, how she's come from this rural background and a lot of this stuff is alien to her. So she's
Yeah,
like explaining it to Rio as though it's like the first time they're both hearing about it, kind of thing,
yeah,
because
and
she's never seen it before.
obviously Rio, having been through Kowloon's, is very well versed in street fighting, shall we say?
Yeah.
So you go over to the Rose Garden and you talk to the guy who's like organising it there, who actually his model is very much the model of the scout in Shenmue 2. He looks very
Yeah.
much like him, doesn't he?
I don't know if that's on purpose or an accident or
I
what.
don't know.
I suppose we'll never know, but
It's
there's quite a lot of these models that have been reused,
very
essentially.
reminiscent, isn't it?
Yeah.
Very reminiscent. So you complete one round of fighting at the Rose Garden. You get told the host doesn't know anything about martial arts moves, but he will start guiding you into the direction of martial arts shops, which is quite helpful.
It's cool. I don't know if you can do it here and now, but if you do go through all the martial arts fights at the Rose Garden, the last fight, I believe, is the guy that was in Bailey Village who was doing
It
the
is
training on
on the.
the sticks
It
things
is
or whatever,
indeed, yeah.
the platform. So that's quite a nice little.
It's quite cool, isn't it? They just sort of they threw that in there, which is nice. And I think as well with Rose Garden, you can get sort of 2-3 man fights in there as well, which is another nice touch. And you earn tokens. I think you get a move scroll at the end of it as well. So
And money as well,
money,
which is good.
yeah. So you can start earning yourself some real cash, which you're gonna need very soon, believe me. So you fight your round. You get told to look at martial arts shops. So you can go to there's 4 sort of martial arts shops dotted around Niaowu. You can go to any of them, because as long as you get the order of the moves right they're talking about, it moves the game on essentially. So you visit one, they ask you to describe what type of animal moves the boss is using, Ji is using, and he will remember 4 styles that he used, and you have to guess which animal resembles his move. You get 2 options for the moves, and this is I think where I think that some people may have got frustrated. Actually, some of the animal choices you get to the animation itself are very similar.
Yeah, and the problem you've got is because you've got to answer 4
Yeah,
correctly, you kind of don't know which ones you've got right and which ones you haven't. So, say if you got the first 2 right, but the third wrong, and you fail, kind of thing.
yeah,
But
and
you don't actually know if it was one of the first 2. So there was a lot of times I kept questioning myself on my first playthrough whether, okay, was that a snake or was that a dragon? Very similar looking things going on.
yeah, it's difficult. I mean, the order for anybody who has struggled with it is snake, monkey, dragon, bear. Or they've quite helpfully in this guide actually turned around and said it's left, right, right, left. So
Yeah,
there you go.
just in case you forget in the future.
Yeah. So once you've done that, you describe the moves. He remembers the shop employee will tell you the style of the martial arts boss style the boss uses. Who uses it's called Xing Yu Li Hu Guan style, which is basically uses animal moves based on the 10 great spirit animals. And he recommends that you use a Bajiquan signature move to counter his attacks.
Okay.
You then have to locate the Bajiquan Arcane Scroll to learn the move. And this is not actually where you are at the moment. You have to go to a specific shop for it. All the other ones are sold out essentially. So you have to go to the only shop in town that has it, which is Heaven's Fist and Sonari Road. So you walk back over there and you get shown the bloody book.
Yeah,
And
it's not a typo. I like that.
yeah, and apparently it's a discounted price of 5,000 yuan.
Which I don't know for people that have actually played Shenmue. It feels like it's harder in a way to make money just because of the roundabout way that you go about earning money in Shenmue 3, gambling side, at least obviously in Shenmue 2, you can gamble with your money. If you double your money, you double your money.
Yeah,
Whereas in Shenmue 3, if you double, you're doubling
yeah, and
tokens,
then you have
which
to
then you have to go
buy
out your
stuff.
way to buy gems and then sell the gems at a lower price. So even if you've got 40,000 tokens, for example, you can perhaps only buy 10 gems that sell for like 300 yuan each. So there's quite a lot of money grinding
Yeah.
depending on what you do. I mean, on my recent playthrough, I found that some of the high stake lucky hit boards were probably best. Just save before you use it and just keep going until you win. I used the one that was in, I don't know if it was inside or just outside. I think it was lucky hit board with like a Chinese lady face on there, and it was 40 times, I believe, and you had to hit the target 3 times in a row. But I was finding that if you go all the way to the left and drop your ball, there's like a 50-50 chance of it actually landing in the slot. So you just need a lot of luck and probably about 30-40 minutes of thingy, and then once I hit that, I got 40 times 1,000, so I got 40,000. I was pretty much done, basically,
Yeah.
money wise.
I mean, the other thing you can do as well, if you've sort of been picking up herbs or whatever at this point, you can trade them for money as well, and you can
Yeah,
get.
herb's probably the quickest and easiest if you've been doing it as you've been playing, because you get some massive bucks from that, like some of
The
the.
forklift job as well is quite good. You can earn like a few hundred pretty quickly.
I think what puts people off is when they get to the stage, if they've not been doing any of that,
Yeah,
you've got a massive grind ahead of you.
you do.
But if you kind of like, not that you know this is coming up, but if you preempt this and just gamble and earn as you're playing jobs, which you need anyway in the Bali village, even you need, is it 2,000 or whatever for the Lu Jiao alcohol
Yeah,
for.
it's 2,000 for that, so it's quite a big jump.
Yeah, so I mean, you're probably well versed already with collecting money at this stage, but just make sure you're doing it as you're progressing, and it's not as painful as it
Yeah,
is
and
just reaching this. And
I mean, it is a pain in the backside. I mean, Shenmue 2 does it twice as well, so it's not unknown
yeah,
to Shenmue games, but I do think the amount of it was harsh. And I know this is something that Ryan said to me when I interviewed him. He felt the economy was a little bit harsh in that respect. And I get it.
I think it'd be good if the save thing had carried on, because then if you'd carried over your money from Shenmue 2, I mean, in this game at least, you don't lose your bag,
No,
you don't
you'd
lose
be
all
all
your
right,
money.
wouldn't you?
So if that was a thing, then yeah, everything you'd earned in Shenmue 2, especially towards the end of the game where you've got those big 3 street fights where you probably got about 10k yuan at the end of beating Shu Yan or whatever her name is.
Yeah, you get a lot of money. You're loaded by the point you leave Kowloon. You're absolutely minted. So
So
it's a bit of a.
that would have come in handy at least.
I get it. I get it, and the
Yeah.
save transfer issues and all the rest of it. For the move, after costing 5,000 yuan, is called reverse body check, which has its own controversies, which we'll come to in a minute.
Yeah.
You go back to the hotel to show Shenhua. Next morning, you show Ren, only to discover that the last page of the bloody skill book is missing. But you make the sort of assumption that Grandmaster Bay will know. He does know what was on it, but won't teach you the move unless you can prove you are strong enough to use it. So if you haven't done this already, he will request that you go to the Wushan Hall and defeat the strongest student there, known as White Tiger. And he,
Which is actually Dan 9, I think,
yes,
from memory, from
it
just
is.
playing, because I think the final Dan is the actual guy himself that you talk to at the door, perhaps, or Gold
It's
Tiger or something.
gold tiger, or gold dragon, or something. I think it's the
Yeah.
last one. So you have to fight him and beat him essentially. And what I thought was a nice touch here actually is if when you reach the top of the
Yeah.
ranking at this martial arts hall, you can go and look at the name tags on the wall, find Rio's name, and he just says a little thing. I've made it. I'm number one. I've made it to the top. Father, are you watching?
Yeah. Hope you're
That
watching, Father, kind of thing,
yeah,
yeah.
that's really nice.
I think Shenmue 3 is that kind of like self-discovery for Rio. He's had these experiences of his father in Bailey Village with the tree and stuff. He's had memories of his father there, and we've said he's following his father's footsteps. He's got that move scroll. He's had that message from Bailey Village about Rio's mother. So I think at this point in the game, Rio's just. I think he realizes how far he's come, and
Yeah,
hopefully his father's proud.
it's a long journey for him, and there's a long way to go yet. So, assuming you defeat White Dragon, you go back and you learn reverse body check. and it's a Baji Kwan move. Now, it's controversial in the sense of it is very, very similar to Body Check. There is a different hand form and different slight movement to it in terms of the way he moves around to use the move, but they are basically one and the same. But I would add, not as a defense, but as a point of reference. Actually, you weren't even going to learn Body Check in Bailu. They added that in later once they got the money from Deep Silver coming in. So I do wonder whether the reverse Body Check was already done, and then they sort of thought, well, we can do something like that in Bailu. And they are two separate moves in Baji Quan. And if you look at Akira's Virtua Fighter moveset, they are separate moves. But I think because it's not far off the same move, and also you're having to grind for money, I get where people were coming from, that they found this quite tedious and a
It's
bit
like
repetitive.
a mirrored animation, really, isn't it, at the end of the
Yeah,
day, which
and
is a shame, really. But they could have maybe slightly changed the move to be something else, possibly. I don't know. So, seeing as though Rio's learnt this move from Master Bay, we're going to play that piece of music that actually plays that you've chosen, Matt.
Yes, indeed, and it's a favourite of mine. Actually, although it harks back to Shenmue 2. It's Wise Man's Quarter, visiting history and tradition, and it plays when you learn the reverse Body Check with Grandmaster Bay.
It's interesting, actually. They know where it's from in a sense that they've named it Wise Men's Quarter. But it's kind of like a slight variant, I believe. It's got a different sort of tone to the sound.
It does. It's and it's uncompressed, and it sounds lovely.
And here it is. Okay, welcome back again. So that was Wise Men's Quarter, visiting history and tradition. You want to carry on, Matt?
Yep. So we're getting sort of nearer to the business end of the game now. You've learnt your reverse Body Check. You've realised it's a separate move, and you go and see Ren straight afterwards. And he tells you, right, we're going to the Red Snake's hideout at 5 p.m. We're going to take this guy down, basically. You turn up at 5. If you don't want to go there straight away, you can obviously sort of move around, do what you want in terms of mini games, etc., etc. You go up there anyway, you sneak in, but the thugs aren't there. They've disappeared. Instead, there's one person sat there, Li Feng.
This was an interesting scene.
She is the woman who was on the boat, and she's just sitting there tossing some stuff into the bonfire. And she'll inform you that she has told the Red Snakes to leave as it's her land.
It seems very sinister, doesn't it? Like, obviously, at this point, you don't know who she is. It's just got a very sinister feeling to it. And she actually she mentioned something about a girl that's been kidnapped, or I don't know if she mentions it here, but she does mention something about there was a girl that went with them.
Yeah.
And then she does like a little smile. It zooms in on her face.
It does.
It's got sort of an evil smile. So
it's starting to pick up now, this bit. So you go back to the hotel, you get a letter from Li Feng, which was left behind the desk, and it says that Shenhua has been abducted and taken to the old castle across the river.
Okay, so that was from Li Feng, was it?
It was.
Does the hotel lady remembers that she was chatting to Shenhua, right?
That's right.
And then, so she says she left a letter.
Yeah, that's correct.
For you, Rio.
That's correct. Okay. And she manipulates Shenhua to say that the Red Snakes have gotten Rio and that she needs to go with her, which I thought, again, it sort of plays into who the character...
Sneaky.
Who the character... Yeah, sneaky. It plays into who she is. Anyway, it turns around and says that if you want to get her back, you have to hand over the Phoenix Mirror. But how are you going to get across the old castle? The other question is, how do they know you've got the Phoenix Mirror? But
That's interesting as well, isn't it?
another query. You can't swim. There's no bridge. You have to get a boat. Ren, in his infinite wisdom, gets you to do that task for him. But there you go. Just
I will mention as well, just in case anyone's missed this, but obviously, if you're using the English dub, we did manage to get Eric Kelso back to revoice Ren.
Yeah.
So obviously, Greg Chun did a very good retelling of Ren,
He did,
as it were. Yeah, and I've just played it through in the Japanese dub, and I think Ren sounds great in the Japanese dub as well. In fact, the whole Japanese dub is
excellent.
pretty fantastic, to be honest. Yeah. I think that probably is the way to go. But if you are very nostalgic for the English version, and Eric Calso is one of those people that you can't live without, he also voiced Fukusan and Guizhang in the phone conversations as well. We mentioned the international phone calls earlier. Paddy and obviously a few more people, Lemon Haze and that sort of stuff. The usuals, the usual modders and that what they managed to get coerce Eric back to to revoice these lines. So yeah, that's something you can download over on the forums.
Yeah,
I'll probably pop a link in the description if this is brand new news to you. But
yeah, it's well worth doing. And there's a nice little Easter egg actually at the end, which we'll come to with that mod. But we'll come to it at the end of the game, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course.
So we'll go straight over. You've got to find this boat, which Ren is giving you the task to do. Great. Okay. So basically now you're coming into the end game. So once you locate a boat and you lock yourself into the sequence, that is it. You are leaving Niaowu to go to the castle. So if you want to do any side quests, finish any bits off, etc., now is the time to do it.
There's one thing I'll say, and this has happened a couple of times, and I think it may have happened to someone else, but when you do this bit, I feel like it's supposed to push you forward. Whereas for me, it left me hanging at like 10 a.m. and I couldn't do anything until I slept at 7. And the game just carried on playing. It wasn't like I could skip or wait or anything. So I just sat the controller down and just waited for the time because I had nothing else to do, kind of thing.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a bug or that's the way it's
I'm
intended.
not sure. But it was, you sort of have to kill the time basically. Which would have been nice. You got time skip everywhere else. It's surprising you didn't get one there. But there we go. So you go around the fishing wharf basically, and you find Grandmaster Bay at the end of it, who says he'll sort of reluctantly take you because you haven't really got a choice essentially. So there we are. So that locks you into the sort of the start of the old castle, if you like. So you can go and kill some time if you like, and you have the rest of the day to do what you want. And you visit Ren to tell him about the boat. At this point, actually, at night, you get a cutscene where Rio is on the balcony, basically talking to himself, saying that he's going to come for Shenhua and save her, and for her to hang in there, which I thought was a nice touch.
That is a nice touch, yeah. This is kind of like a hidden-ish cutscene. You kind of have to go onto the balcony at this point. So like I was saying, you've got to wait till night time. So if you do go back to the hotel, back to your room, and you head on out to the balcony, even though Shenhua's not there, just do it. And you get a nice little cutscene where the camera sort of pans out on Rio, and
he grabs the balcony like railings a bit. The wood creaks as he sort of tenses, and it's quite well done. And it's just obviously a lot of Shenmue 3 is the relationship between Rio and Shenhua, certainly in Bailu Village especially. So it's a nice little payoff there in that respect. So it's quite well done. Up
to this point, obviously they've been such a, I don't want to say an item, but they've been held at the waist basically, haven't they? Joined at the waist throughout all of Bailu and most of Niaowu, I suppose. Even though you don't really see Shenhua as much, they're still kind of together. Joint rooms, going back and telling each other what they found throughout the day. So yeah, it is a nice touch. And there is quite a lot of these hidden cutscenes that you can miss, really, if you don't know where they are or you just stumble across them. Definitely. Which kind of just add a bit of character to Niaowu.
Yeah, it does a bit, which is nice. So, assuming you get up the next morning, you head on over, meet up with Ren, and he surprises you bringing some reinforcements. Su from Lihu Hall and Shilling from Li Jiao Shrine. I'll be honest, in story context point of view, Mr. Su, I can sort of see a bit more because you speak to him, you spar with him, you ask a lot of questions from him. I get that one a little bit more. Shilling, I think, was missing something. There is a side quest for her, which gives you a bit more character to her. Yeah. But when you read her bio on the Japanese website, there's a lot more to her, and I just get the impression there was going to be more around her than what we got. So her being there is almost a bit random, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, I do agree with that. I think, and she was like kind of the one of the characters they were teasing a bit with the
Yeah,
trailer and that sort
yeah,
of stuff that we were expecting to see more of, and she
yeah.
seemed like more interesting than some of the other characters, perhaps that got more airtime, as it were. It
Mm.
looked like she was quite a unique character that I would have liked to have seen more of.
Yeah, I would have done because I actually think she's got quite a nice character to her. I think there could have been a really nice,
And the
she
model's
probably
excellent as well, character model.
yes, you can tell they were considered certainly had bigger things planned. I think by the quality of her model, she's one of those characters. I think it's a good like one game character if you know what I mean. That
Yeah,
you build a relationship
family
with.
sort of character.
Yeah, they help you out, and then you go on your jolly way. But you don't quite get that, unfortunately, here with Shenmue 3. So it's a bit random. But anyway, sort of as an aside, that was
Having said that, though, I will say that it seems like throughout this, Ren has been going around speaking to the same characters,
it
and Ren
does.
has had more of an interaction, perhaps, because I think it's Ren that kind of like bundles this cast of characters together to
Yeah.
tackle the old castle.
So all right then, as a side question to that
Yeah.
character perspective system, we already know that there was a Biley Village task for Ren which got cut.
Hmm.
Stuart found that and put it on our forums, if you remember. Do you think that could have played in here, the character perspective system, that you could have been Ren going around doing these tasks, building that rapport?
Possibly like doing another side quest with these characters, perhaps. I mean,
Yeah.
when I first saw that in the Kickstarter information and whatnot, and Yu Suzuki's videos about Baisha and stuff, I felt like that was stuff that was going to be held into Baisha.
Mm.
Like we had, I don't know where we got this perception from, but I felt like there was going to be like an infiltration sort of thing into some sort of like say like the old castle, but like in Baisha, and we were going to have like we mentioned it before about that concept art of Rio looking for the binoculars
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
down at that
definitely.
sort of thing, and there was talk about Ren being on a horse or something. I don't know where I've got this information from, but that's just some of the stuff I was feeling like, and some of the later stretch goals, like about high upper tier fighting thing. I forgot what it was called, like the higher ground system or something. It just kind
Yeah.
of felt like they were building up to this sort of siege,
Mm.
almost like I forgot what it's called, but like a kingdom. There's like a game based on it, right? So like
Warring Kingdoms.
Warring Kingdoms, that kind of style where they're all kind of like attacking on horses and infiltrating this big siege sort of thing. I mean, I might be talking about out my arse, but I do feel like that was
It
planned
was
at some point.
definitely mentioned within the Kickstarter promotional stuff when it launched.
Yeah.
And I do wonder if it's one of these things that they had ambition for, but obviously due to budget constraints and time, probably had to cut it. I mean, we lost Baisha, unfortunately, and the castle is like a repurposed ending in that
Mm.
respect. Which I mean, again, I'd love to know what's on the cutting room floor with the castle.
Yeah, but I do feel like my point was that the character's perspective thing was
Mm.
being saved for that, so you could see this mission from different angles, different viewpoints.
Yeah, because it would have been cool that the Ren turns up with these people, but then you do like maybe a couple of little side quests within like as almost like a flashback
Yeah,
to just to see how they came in. Who knows? It's a shame, but we got what we got, and as we know,
and who
the
knows? They could be saving that stuff still for Shenmue 4.
yeah, quite possibly. I mean, that's yeah, we've sort of talked about it, yeah, on and on that they've got everything there that they can sort of go really deep in the story for Shenmue 4, and hopefully they do.
Yeah,
But for now, we're going to the castle. So you head over on your boat. Grandmaster Bay drives you over. You get a nice little cutscene where Ren starts giving orders of who's going in, and he volunteers himself to stay with Shilling, who gets her broom ready to smash him over the head with, which I thought was quite funny.
yeah.
And then Ren's like, "Oh, maybe not." And actually, I'm going to go back a few steps. Actually, we mentioned a Ren cutscene. The cutscene where he meets Shenhua is an interesting one because he's all cocky and brash. She gives him the evils, and he backs right off.
Yeah, that is after the second time you lose
Yes, it
against
is.
Mr. Muscle's guy. You go back to the hotel, don't they, and have a little conversation. And
Yeah.
these kind of like, I don't know, like remnants of Shenhua's powers being used on Ren. we've questioned this in the past. Just his reaction to speaking to Shenhua seemed a bit off. I don't know.
It's heavily implied anyway. But anyway, that's me
Yeah,
going off at a tangent.
worth a
So
mention. Yeah,
yeah. So once eventually jobs are allocated, that Rio and Ren are going to go together, Sue and Schilling will go together, and Grandmaster Bay will sort of stay back a little bit, which is fine. So you wander in, and there's like on the left hand side as you walk through the castle, the first little bit at the bottom of the castle, there is randomly a pawn shop. Which, if you look at the Kickstarter art book, it implies that they had more going on in that area than we actually got, because there's a lot of people, NPCs bustling around, etc. So I think it's part of the cut content, shall we say, we never got.
and also on the Kickstarter, there was meant to be a stretch goal for a side quest in Baisha or something, and I
There
feel
was,
like this was what they kind of came up with that
yeah.
you're going to talk about in a moment.
So the side quest you get, you walk up and there's this pawn shop, and the owner there says that the Red Snakes have nicked some items of his, which is a ring, a plate, and a camera. So you have to go and find them in the castle, basically. You can hunt round and find them. The guide we use has got a little map
Yeah,
for
no,
them.
pretty cool
So I
actually.
won't go into it now. But what you do, you get your items, you return them to the pawn shop. You get a bottle of snake venom, which is really helpful because you're going to need that for fighting your way through what's to come. At this point, I would also recommend that if you get any veg, etc., any garlic you need to eat, get everything ready because you are going into the end game now. So you're going to need your health. You walk up, you go into the castle, and then you go over into the next room, and you find 3 locked doors. And you look inside each of the door. On the left door, there's a chicken inside. In the middle room, you see some pictures around. A picture of Rio, a picture of Landy, and a picture of Chai and his family, which I thought was all a bit weird,
That's
bit of a
interesting.
joke.
Yeah, yeah, that's funny. I don't know if that was
And
an Easter egg, but that seems like where Chai's been hiding out.
yeah, I don't know where he's been living this entire time after being thrown off a boat. So you've met Chai's family, interestingly enough, and then there's the final door on the right hand side, and you look in there and you see Shenhua's father Yuan, and the other missing stonemason is you. But before you can do anything, you are attacked by the persistent little bastard that is Chai, and you beat him via QTE. And at this point now, Rio's strength is much better than Chai's, and he takes him down with relative ease, which is great. Nicks the keys, unlocks the door. Grandmaster Bay arrives to take Yuan and Zhu away, and you will ask him to protect them while you go to get Shenhua. And Rio has a conversation with Yuan at that point to say Shenhua has been captured and he's going to go and save her. So you come out of there, you walk around the main building and Ren will be waiting for you. And you go through the doors, and you have this cutscene where you're sneaking in the building, and you see Niaowu for the first time, and Ren in his pervy way. Oh, look at the pair on her. I mean, let's be honest, it is exaggerated a little bit, isn't it? But
Yeah, I mean, considering where obviously this character's come from, Li Feng or whatever that you're going to reveal in a moment, I feel like they've grown since
yeah,
then. So
don't know how she did that, but there you
interesting.
go. So
That's another power.
you go in there, and Niao demands the Phoenix Mirror in exchange for Shenhua's life. However, there's a little flashback where Rio recognizes her face, and it's Li Feng, the woman that you saw on the boat. So it begs the question here, in terms of storytelling: how did she know Rio had the Phoenix Mirror, and why did she? When did she find out she
Yeah, well,
wanted?
it seems like she's been following him. If she was on the same boat, she must have known. She must have been in Bailu, or she must have been
Possibly,
in
yeah.
Langushan, wherever the boat left from, which is interesting.
So it's interesting. So what they do at this point, she comes out, she calls out Rio at this point, and actually I've missed a cutscene here, but I'll come into it now. Is before you go to the castle, Ren has bought himself a fake Phoenix mirror and says they
Oh
can
yeah,
use it.
of course. And there's
But
actually a little hidden cutscene that we were going to mention earlier
yeah,
on. You don't get it straight away, but I feel like after you meet Ren for the first time,
yeah, that's
if you
correct.
head to, I forget the name of the shop, but there's a shop that's got like antiques, and Rio actually notices this Phoenix mirror sort of design at the back of the shop there. It's literally a replica of
Yeah.
the Phoenix mirror, and that's obviously the one that Ren is spotted as well and picks up. Yeah,
So what Ren goes to do at this point is use the fake one, and Rio goes no, and he gives
mm,
Nielsen the real one. So
yeah,
now Rio has lost the Phoenix Mirror, and we know at this point Landy has the Dragon Mirror. So now both mirrors are in the hand of the Chi men.
Very interesting. So I will ask you, man, just before we move on. Obviously, Niao Sun's a character that's been heavily shown off back in the day. Project Berkeley, we had concept art of her and stuff. What do you think of her introduction to Shenmue 3? Do you think they got the actual introduction of a character off with a bang, so to speak, or do you think they originally had other intentions?
I think they had more intentions for her in terms of the way she would have been coming into that area, into the story. I mean, bearing in mind her image has been flashed around for years, and also at the end of Shenmue 2, she's quite a prominent image in that ending bit at the end of the credits. So it begs the question for me that I think they had more going on there, and they again had to make compromises somewhere.
See, that's the problem. This whole old castle area, do we take this as canon? I know we have to take it as canon now, but obviously this may have not been the original intention. This is kind of like what they slapped on to round off the game at the time. So
definitely not. I mean, it's been said publicly that they changed the ending to get it out, and there was obviously a time limitation on that, and probably money as well. So I anticipate we were going to get something different, actually, to what we ended up getting at the castle. Not that I didn't enjoy fighting up the castle, etc.
Oh no, the actual old castle area is still pretty epic and feeling, really.
It's good fun. I just think it lacked, again, some of the more intricate storytelling, which would have made it more epic and feel a bit more important.
Yeah.
But actually, when you talk about Niao-san in a bit, it gives you a bit more about her. But we'll come to that. So she brings Shenhua out with one of the black suits, knife to her throat, hand over the mirror. They get Shenhua. Rio basically apologizes, and then Niao-san randomly turns around and goes, "Oh, Landy is in the castle, and you have to fight your way up here to get to him." And now this raised a question for me, in that, how does she know that you're after Landy? What's been said? Like, what's going on? Has Chai said something?
I suppose she must be in the know, though, because if she's part of the Chi men, she must know Landy's father was killed by Ryo's father. So she knows that Rio's actual intent is not the mirrors. He doesn't really know much about the mirrors. We, as players, we still don't know much about the mirrors.
No,
they obviously know more about the mirrors than Rio does. So Rio's only real intention is to get revenge on Landy. So like you say, she opens the doors. Landy's up there. She knows for a while that Rio's going to be like completely one-track mind. It's going to be Landy. She's got the mirror now, so she's got what she wants. She knows even if Rio is incapable of beating Landy, she's got something up a sleeve that we'll get to in a bit.
Yeah.
So I will say, before we take on the old castle, I'm going to play another song. I think this is going to hype up the ending here. We're going to talk about the ending of Shenmue 3, which gets pretty... I don't want to say too deep, because it's not too deep. It's going to get quite deep with some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about in a minute. So I'm going to play To the Battlefield. It's a piece of music, obviously, from Shenmue 3 again. It plays, actually, as Ren's rounding up the troops before hitting the old castle, but I think it'll not be nice, fitting piece of music to play as we enter the main area of the old castle. Okay, that was To the Battlefield, and we're going to move on now to whatever's comes after meeting Niaowu.
So Nielsen has obviously revealed that Landy is there, waiting for you at the top of the castle, and your doors open, swing open, and you have to fight your way through basically a mountain of thugs.
Not quite a 70-man battle, but
Not quite 70-man battle, but it's still a good old fight. So you fight your way through the first lot of thugs. You fight your way through some more. You then go up to the top of the steps where you fight the sort of the red snakes grunts. This is where you're going to need your health because if you start taking hits, etc., your kung fu level's not very high. You're going to need your stuff to eat to get through
or
this.
snake powers as well. I
Or
made
snake power, yeah.
a bit of a thing of buying quite a few snake powers for this.
And then at the final bit, at the top of the steps, you fight Yi himself. And this is the battle we can actually win. So you fight him as normal in free battle, then you get the QTE to whack in the reverse body check. Rio takes him out. Boom, thank you very much.
You
I am
finally got
best
the kung fu that you required.
to take him down.
Yeah.
It is a bit of a repetition from Bailu Village in terms of the way it's been done. That's a valid criticism, but I'll leave it there for the benefit of now. And now it's time to go and face Landy for the first say the first time. You see him on the damn helicopter, but for the first time,
Yeah.
you're within reach of Landy.
You're in the same room as him.
You're in the same room.
He can't run off. He can't fly off.
No, he can't bugger off. He can't do anything. You're going to be in that room with him. So you make your way up the steps and you fight some more goons who are actually Kickstarter backers at this point.
Yeah.
I think it was just because they need to get them in. They're fairly easy to take them down quite quickly.
Is this the point where you see Niao-sun chucking fire around as well?
As all this shit's going down and you're about to break into the castle, etc., Niao-sun has decided that she's going to betray Landy and starts pouring petrol all over the castle, starts laughing and says, the Chu men to belong to me now. Landy, that fool.
Right, so she's possibly thinking then by sending Rio up to Landy, she knows full well she's going to burn the castle down, so she's going to burn Landy and Rio down at the same time.
She's going to take two birds with one stone sort of thing, isn't she? Which is very clever, and obviously she has intentions to lead the Chi men, that's going to be very interesting coming into a Shenmue 4 now that we know what we do, that she's double-crossed Landy, that he has one mirror, she has the other.
So just thinking about it then, is Landy the big boss in her head? If she takes out Landy, she becomes the big boss. Because I know we've heard stuff about higher ups like Tentai or whatever the guy's name is. But if this is on her mind, Landy must be the one in control at the moment.
Must be. There must be something to it. So that'll be very interesting how that plays out in a Shenmue 4 when we eventually get it.
Doesn't she say something like Niaowu will belong to her? So it's kind of similar to how Donu said Kowloon or Hong Kong will belong to him, when he was at the top of the Yellowhead building and he wants to display his whatever to Landy. Instead of doing that now, Niaowu just thinks, if I kill Landy, I've got that as a reward.
Yeah, and she says the Chi men are hers. So it's very interesting how they do that. So while that's all going on down the background, the castle starts burning down. You haven't realised at this particular point. You bust into Landy's room, and Landy's sat there, and he gives you a bit of a snarky look at you, and then you've got his three sort of henchmen. So he sends one after you, who's like an older bloke, starts throwing some kung fu and using some QTE to take him down. Quite straightforward. Sort of parries the move off and just takes him down. The second thug comes up and is this like Bruce Lee kind of bloke, Jeet Kune Do, does all this like wah stuff, and Ren just boots him in the face.
Another comedic scene, really.
And then Rio turns around and goes, "How are we even friends?" Which I thought was quite funny. And then the third guy is a bigger dude who has sort of a Dol Neo look to him, actually, in my book.
Yeah.
And he sort of tries to bear hug Rio. He headbutts him, and then he sort of takes him down with a palm strike, which is cool.
Well, in fact, the guy prior to that, the Bruce Lee guy, it's if you look at the old chapter tile artwork, he looks like one of the guys that's in that. So I
He
don't know
does.
if he is or not, or that's just
But it's like
something we've spotted as
Yang.
fans.
It's like Yang Lang. He pops up, doesn't he, a couple of times
Yeah,
in chapter
yeah,
titles as well, which was interesting because that's a character that's been around for 20 odd years.
yeah, for sure. So it's it's cool, but it's one of those. Did they intend more out of these characters, or
Mm,
I mean, do they still intend more? It could be another one of those characters that comes back again in the
could be.
later aspects, like
Could
Chai.
could very much be. So you get in your fight with Landy. Landy turns around, having not really said it much at this point, and actually turns around and says to Rio, oh, he's actually improved a bit now. The little Easter egg I was talking about earlier is if you have the Eric Calso mod, you also have a nice little mod here where Paul Lucas has come back to voice Landy at this point. So it's in
Which
Landy's
is
original
amazing.
voice.
Yeah,
And it's badass. I think and this isn't any disrespect to the actor who took Landy on. I just think it fits the character better, in my view.
yeah. Kyle McCauley, I think.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, but yeah,
It
definitely he's more deeper, landy, sinister
just
sort
sounds,
of
yeah, it sounds
voice.
more menacing, doesn't it? But yeah, it's a nice little Easter egg that Paul came back for that. Rio gets up and says, Landy, fight me. I will avenge my father. Landy steps up. And you have a fight with Landy. You can't hit him. This is in a free fight as well. And you just can't hit him. Now, I know there's been some sort of criticism levied around why can't you touch Landy? Well, because you're 6 months into a training
Yeah,
battle. Yeah, you're not going to be able to touch Landy. I'm sorry, but in 6 months, you're not going to take down a master of a brutal martial art like that. Not happening. You're not going to be
which
able
is
to touch
why it
him.
would have felt so rushed if this was the end. If it was a trilogy, if
Yeah,
defeats him, everyone goes home happy. It would have felt so rushed.
yeah,
Knowing
exactly.
what we know moving forward from the chapter tiles and all that sort of stuff. I know these people out there that perhaps aren't aware of all the lore and the depth of the series, and they just expected, eventually Rio is going to fight Landy and win. That's it's still 2 or 3 games away. You know what I mean? I don't know if there's going to be a training montage, but it's still too soon. Even next
Yeah,
game, do you know what I mean?
it is. It's because it's a direct follow on. It's too soon. I mean, one thing I discussed with Michael Huber is whether it could have been done as a QTE, possibly, for a bit of interactivity to make it look a bit more like
Mm,
badass. But then actually, I'm going to counter that and say the cutscene that plays after this point, because you're not going to touch Landy, is actually really, really well done. The martial arts choreography is excellent throughout. I mean, Rio's trying to take him down. Landy's just casually getting out of the way. One
yeah,
particular favorite of this part is Rio goes to punch him. Landy gets him, blocks, like grabs his arm, hooks his foot over, and boots Rio in the face.
yeah. It looks really, really good. It does. I think this is, motion capture, whatever they did do. That this is they
It's
nailed
top.
this. Yeah, top
It's
notch.
really top notch, really well done. At the end of and Ren tries to get involved. Landy just thrust kicks him out the way. Completely does him in.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you think. Like, I mean, maybe Rio's never actually meant to defeat Landy or lay a blow on him.
Possibly,
If you think of, I know this is going completely left field, but the Shenmue Online stuff where you've got the dragon and the big phoenix in the sky kind of thing. I mean, if we do get to that point, maybe that is how you defeat Landy. You don't defeat him by becoming a better martial artist. I mean, there could be, something else that happens. I don't know. Just thought I'd mention that.
yeah. We just don't know, do we? And like you say, at this point in time, Rio is not going to be able to touch him. So I just don't. It's never going to happen now. And I'm sorry, it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit the arc in my book. So going back on topic, Landy's right. You really have a death wish. Let me reintroduce you to your father. Ren then pops up with the fake mirror
Yeah,
and
from that
says,
shop.
yeah, from that shop, and says, well, let him go and you can have this. And it's the Phoenix mirror. And Landy goes to step out and grab it. Ren launches it through the window and then boots Rio out of there, basically. And Rio's like, no, Landy, I want to fight you. Thinking, and Ren turns around and says, you're no good to anybody dead. Which I thought was very interesting that Ren sort of just took the initiative there and was like, no, we're not having this. And
Yeah.
get the hell out of there.
So I will ask you then, man. So I've asked you for Ren, I've asked you for Niaowu. So the Landy fight, do you think that scene, has it lived up to the anticipation? Is that what, the fans have been clamouring for that for 18 years? Do you think a character like Landy could be fooled by the fake mirror throw? Or do you think he's naive enough to give in to Ren? You know how Ren gives him the ultimatum: if you want the mirror, let Rio go. Is that something that you don't really think is typical of Landy's character, really?
I don't know. I mean, bearing in mind that we don't know what Landy would have done had Wow just given him the mirror. So would he have let him live? I don't know, because I mean I think Landy went in there banking on a fight,
Yeah.
and that's what he got.
And to be fair, it's Iwao that killed Landy's father. It's not
Yeah,
nothing to do with Rio. So his sort of anger towards Rio wasn't there at the start of the game. You know, start of
yeah,
Shenmue 1. It's Rio's anger that's reminiscent of Landy.
yeah, and I
You know,
think Rio's a bit of a pest to Landy. I don't think he's too bothered by him,
yeah.
um, but at the same time,
He's starting to get impressed by Rio, though.
yeah, he's starting to acknowledge Rio's ability. And you think back to the Shenmue 2 where he watches him take down Dolnio, and now again where he's taken 3 of his henchmen out and has actually acknowledged that he's improved,
Mm.
that there might be something more going on there. But I think the scene itself, certainly the choreograph stuff is excellent. It's so well done, put together. The fight itself, I think, is systematic of the flaws that are in the fighting system in itself, that it does lack a bit of impact. But it felt good just to be able to have a go at him, quite honestly.
Yeah, and I don't think it's ever going to live up to fans' expectations. I mean, we've spoken about this for the whole of Shenmue 3. You know, it's never ever going to live up to 18 years worth of anticipation. So even though we got this epic Landy fight, it still feels lacking. But that's just
Yeah.
because of, you know, preconceived notions going into the game that you think it's going to be something that it's not.
Mm.
It's a weird one to explain, but it's just something that we've obviously had in our thoughts and our mind of how things are going to go down, and obviously
Yeah. I mean,
it can
it's
never live up to that.
20 years worth of us thinking about it. So I do think it'd have had a hard time anyway, taking out the flaws I've talked about. But then that's like you're now into the last. You're locked into your cutscenes now. That's it. So Ren gets you out of there. You watch the castle burn down, but with Mr. Yuan and Zhu and Shilling, who Su and Master Bay Ren and Rio watch the castle go down.
Interesting point, actually. We did do it in a stream where we did the explore mod thing. The
Mm.
castle is actually burnt down properly. You
Yeah,
know,
it's the model's changed. If you go over on FreeCam using UUU, Unreal, FreeCam, etc., you can go over there, and it's all been done. It's all been burnt down, and the model's been changed, which I think's, they could have just,
good attention to detail. Yeah,
yeah, could have just left it, couldn't they? But they didn't. So next cutscene, you're on the boat going. I don't know where you're going. I presume to Bailu Village to drop her dad off, because
yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I did transcribe the conversation here if you want me to just run through this,
yeah, go for it.
because it's not part of the guide, because the guide's kind of just stopped. It's like enjoy the final cutscene. So this is what happens. I've kind of like rewritten the chain of events here. So after the Landy fight, it pans and we see the castle on fire. Then it skips to Rio, Ren, Shenhua, and Mr. Yuan on the ship. So Master Bay and the other characters are watching from the distance as the ship's sort of like departing from Niaowu. But where the ship's heading, we don't actually know. So Rio has a conversation with Mr. Yuan on board. He hands Mr. Yuan the photo that he's been carrying since finding it in the basement of Shenmue 1, you know, the photo of Yuao and Zhao Siming. And Mr. Yuan confirms that that is Zhao Siming in the photo. So Rio explains what happened to his father. Obviously, you know, Landy kind of came and killed him. And Misty Wan can't believe that something so terrible happened because of the mirror his family created, all these mirrors, you know, that his family created, which it sort of confirms that the lineage of the Yuan name
Yeah,
of the stonemasons, you know, something must be important there. It must be connected to their family history in regards to creating these sort of like magical mirrors and whatnot, which is an interesting thing to think about. You know, like we've spoken about Shenhua's lineage and ancestors and that sort of stuff, but there's something going on with the Yuan family as well.
yeah,
So he states that the Dragon Mirror and the Phoenix Mirror were once locked away in the Cliff Temple, but someone had their eye on them. And it was actually Zhao Suming that wanted to retrieve the mirrors before they fell into the wrong hands. And he is obviously the man that's standing next to Iwao in the photo. And he then says, I couldn't quite make out who he meant, but he says the mirrors were entrusted to him. So I'm not sure if you meant Jiao or Iwao.
I think it was Zhao. I just got that impression because
Yeah,
Zhao is the one with the mirrors, and they say they're his mirrors in the first game, don't they?
exactly, yeah. And then he says, but several years later, Zhao died under mysterious circumstances. His only son, Long Son Zhao, which is also known as Landi, that's him,
Mm-hmm.
he was raised by the Chia men. And the cliff temple that Zhao visited, and then this kind of gets Rio saying that that's where we found the scroll, but that's kind of like a translation thing we determined,
Yeah.
where he actually means that that was depicted in the scroll that they found at the top of the bell tower. Aldier told them about this cliff temple on the scroll, and I think that's what Rio means. He means that that was what we saw on the scroll, basically, this cliff
Yeah.
temple.
Definitely.
Yeah. So Mr. Yuan, he's heard that the Chia men have taken it over, which means that Landy is probably headed back there with the mirror. So obviously at this point, we don't really know if Landy survived the fire, but it seems
It's
like
implied.
they just assume that, yeah, they're implying that if Landy's going anywhere, if you want to catch up with Landy, he's going to head back to the Cliff Temple, but the
Yeah.
Chia men have taken over. So then that kind of begs the question as well, like, does Niao think that she's killed Landy? Does she think she's killed Rio?
I
It's questions that
mean,
are kind of like leaning into Shenmue 4 that we don't really know
yeah.
about
I
yet.
mean, you'd have thought burning the castle down. She'd have thought she's got away with that scot free. So you'd think in her head, yeah, I've dealt with this, and she's off to potentially the Cliff Temple.
And then we kind of don't know what Landy's thinking either.
No, we don't.
Obviously, we assume now that Landy survived because they're talking about Landy's headed to the Cliff Temple. But does Landy think that he now owns the Phoenix Mirror because he's got the fake one? Or did he realize that that was a fake one? And he's kind of kicking himself like, I've let Rio go and I fell for that trick. I don't know. We don't really know what's going on there either.
No, it's interesting.
But what we do get is a brief scene where Rio, Shenhua, and Ren are heading to the Cliff Temple, it seems, across like the Great Wall of China, it looks like. But then that kind of also means that the ship potentially wasn't heading to the Great Wall because there's only 3 of them. So Mr. Yuan must have gotten off somewhere. So we were kind of speculating whether he got back to Bailu Village first. So I mean, that kind of could be a thing where Shenmue 4, if it ever does happen, and perhaps the start of the game sort of rolls back a little bit, and you
Yeah,
maybe see Mr. Yuan being dropped off back at Bailu Village, and they kind of reconvene there and talk about where they're going to go next, kind of thing. Before the,
yeah. I think
that could be a possibility.
it should really actually as well give some. Cause you can sort of fill in some context that was potentially missing from the end of 3. That would be really good. I think.
Yeah, they kind of just slap that thing on just to give a bit of an ending, a goal moving forward, I suppose. And that's Shenmue 3 in a nutshell. I mean, we do get some end credits. We get the Chaoan sign music on repeat for like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But we do eventually get a nice, heartfelt message from Yu Suzuki at the end of the credits that I am going to read now. He states that to all the fans that have waited many years for Shenmue 3 and to all of the crowdfunding backers who have made this game possible, this project would not exist without your love, support, and the connections we have made along the way. With profound appreciation for all that you have done, I am happy to finally present to you Shenmue 3. During development, I expanded the scope beyond what I originally envisioned. I'm happy we were able to include the distinct Shenmue charm throughout the game. I hope that this new chapter strikes even a small resonance in your heart. For as long as there are those who wish to see Shenmue live on, I will never give up on my own personal journey to complete its story. As with Shenmue 3, the Shenmue story is with you. I sincerely hope that together we can continue to spin the tale of Rio and his adventures in Shenmue 4. This goes out to all those who have ever loved and supported Shenmue. Yu Suzuki.
Says enough, doesn't it? I mean, the story, the continuation, it is in our hands to a point. I mean, we got to get behind the anime now, and we need to get behind hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4 every month. I think Shenmue 3 is not without fault, but it is the miracle game. It does exist. We made it exist, and for what it is, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. Yes, there are faults in the story and some mechanics, etc. They're well publicized. We've talked about them at length.
Yeah, I think it was episode 6 we discussed,
Yeah,
great detail about Shenmue 3 series moving forward. If you want to head back and check out that episode, I think both yourself and Peter actually gave the game around a 7, which
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
right.
I too think's a fair score. I think it just needed a little bit better storytelling or something. Like,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the original two games, I think it would have turned into like a 9 or a 10 in my opinion if because I think everything else we were given was exactly as we hoped for as Shimmy fans. The way the gameplay felt, NPCs, the interactions with them, the voice dubbing, even the mini games, environments, etc. It's just something felt missing for me, like in the storytelling, like a little bit the
yeah.
soul or something that made the first two games so special and masterpieces in my eyes. I can't quite put my finger on it, but
Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. I think in one part, in the part it fell short was the storytelling and the fleshing out in that respect.
I mean, even so, like the two episodes we've done on the story, we've kind of talked for 2 hours each way. There has been story in there. It's just not on
It's
the same level.
No, it's not, and some of it you have to go and fish for. Whereas I think Shenmue 1 and 2 is a bit more because they had more money and all the rest of it. I think is a lot. It's sort of served you a bit more up front. Whereas I think in Shenmue 3, you have to sort of search around for these little scenes that fill out some of the story gaps and fill out some of the environment and the characters, which is a plus and a minus because it means you're always going to see something new, hopefully. But it does leave some gaps there. But I mean, for what it is, for what we got, brilliant. Thank you very much. Let's push on now. Use that as a basis and really smash it out of the park with a fourth game and an anime which looks bloody fantastic.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm going to ask you, man. So, looking forward, somewhat of a recap. What do you think we can expect for the future of the series? Whether that be the animation before. What should we be doing? Should we be buying up boxes and boxes of perfume, perhaps?
I mean, I would encourage anybody who's a Shenmue fan who, don't go mad and don't buy things you can't afford, etc., because that's just ridiculous. But you know, support the series. Support the merchandise. That's the one thing you can be doing. Get out there on the tweetathons, hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4, hashtag Shenmue Anime on the 4th of each month, because that's our big platform, and we should be targeting people out there in Sony, Microsoft, letting Wisenet know, Cedric know that we're not going quiet, we're not going away, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think as the biggest thing is at the moment, the biggest positive we have is that we have what looks to be a damn good anime coming, and that for me could really kick the series into a different area in terms of a fan base. It may come into the games and want to play the games, but on the flip side of things, if it doesn't make a fourth game more viable, it does give us an avenue, if successful, to finish the story. But I want, as I said this quite openly, I want the games to finish the story first. But if I have to have it in anime, then I'll take it. But we need to support this anime. We need to support the merchandise, and we need to be getting the word out there that we want a fourth game. And if we don't do that, we won't get it. And it really is that simple in my head.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think whether you enjoyed Shenmue 3 or you didn't, you shouldn't rest on your laurels. I mean, we rested on laurels back in 1999, 2001, whatever. There's a point where you're waiting for Shenmue 3 to come. It never came. So we waited nigh on 18 years, and I don't want to have that sort of experience again. I think we're in a position now where we can actually determine the future of the series ourselves. We've already done that by getting Shenmue 3 back, and for people to suddenly start slacking, whether because they didn't enjoy the third game or because there's been a third game and that sort of naivety's kicked in again where they just assume things are going to happen. You can't rest on your laurels like that. So get behind the anime, like Matt says, get behind what we do on the 4th of each month, pushing for Shenmue 4. And let's try and continue the series. I understand Yu Suzuki's probably not going to do Kickstart again.
No,
So
no.
they're not going to be able to suddenly get a flood of 6 or 7 million from fans. So we're going to have to do this a hard way. We're going to have to make sure that the anime is successful to turn a few heads, perhaps, that may, if Cedric and the team have been pitching the game, Shenmue 4, to publishers and they've kind of been turned down, or perhaps, maybe they are waiting to see how well the anime is successful. Let's make the anime a success. Let's hope that we get a whole new fan base on board, and then we can turn our attention then to Shenmue 4 moving forward for the rest of the series.
Definitely.
So, again, thanks so much, guys. I mean, we're kind of putting a line under the sand here. This is the end of season 1, but we are going to be back in the same amount of time between episodes. It's not, it's, you're going to see episode 9 again soon, but this is going to be season 2. The start of next year, we're going to refresh ourselves, get past Christmas, get past the new year, and come out banging again next year when it could be potentially the year of Shenmue again. So I just want to express my heartfelt thanks to everyone who's tuned into all of these episodes so far, all 26 of them, including Matt's interviews and whatnot. You've got more interviews to come. So, yeah, massive thanks. Thanks for all the content that you're consuming over on the dojo, on the forums, some of the social media stuff that we're pumping out. In fact, that was another news point I'll make briefly. We've added a couple of new staff members to the dojo team. So we've got Spaghetti,
Yeah.
who have rejoined Spags has rejoined the team in terms of social media, some of his prowess and expertise for social media, and Hiki, their passion and commitment to the series is, recognised and completely appreciated. So that is why they're back involved in, the staff and our team moving forward.
Yeah, giving us a bit of support over on the social media, which is always welcome. You've probably seen a load of posts popping up from those guys in the
already smashing it out
last
the
few
park.
days.
Insane work.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
You may have seen Zachirio, who was our resident American streamer. Obviously, me and Matt cover the 4th of each month in a sort of special one-off per month stream that me and Matt do, which, again, thanks for tuning into those if you are spotting those on Twitter or whatever and joining us on Twitch or YouTube the 4th of every month. We have some amazing streams there, some great discussions, some great, almost like an episode. If you're enjoying episodes of the show, we kind of like have a live episode there. So that's always fun. But moving forward, obviously Zachirio's left the team to move on to some of his projects that he wants to work on. Virtuous Shenmue, you may have seen on Twitter. Go give it a follow. He's pumping out some great photography-esque sided things coming there. So you'll see like each day there'll be like a themed piece of Shenmue screenshots or whatever he's done in his artistic fashion there. But it is with our great honour that we welcome Titch Life to the Shenmue Dojo team in terms of streaming moving forward. So starting from next year, obviously we're only a month away from that now, pretty much, you can expect to see Titch streaming for the dojo, which is going to be really exciting. I think some of the live streams that she's done herself, she's already done some Crazy Taxi streams and Super Monkey Ball streams and stuff.
Yeah.
And she's also got extensive playthroughs of the first 2 games, Shenmue of course, over on her YouTube channel. So moving forward, that's going to be really exciting to see what she brings to the party. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing some of her streams.
Yeah, we're just waiting on a date for that, but it'll be early next year. But yeah, exciting times for the dojo, I think.
So with that then, Matt, I think we'll put a close to this episode.
Yeah, I think we should. Thank you everybody who's listened to us over the last year or so. It's a pleasure that we create this content in our spare time. We do it because we are massive fans of the franchise, and every single one that takes time to listen to us, to watch us, to read what we talk about, it is appreciated. And without you guys, the community wouldn't exist. So thank you so much.
And Matt, have you got a piece of music to close us out with?
Yes, I do have a piece of music to close us out with. It's one of my favourites. It's played in Shenmue 3. It's just a nice, chilled out piece to get us to the end of the season for the podcast. And it's called Seeking Healing.
Ah, look at the time.